Grand Rising, Grand Rising, Grand Rising, beautiful people. How y'all doing? What are we? Today is Thursday, book club day. Book club day, and we still suspended from TikTok. Might just give. All right, my bad. YouTube, Facebook. But Grand Rising, everybody. Grand Rising. Hey, Teresa, how you doing? How you doing? Thursday book club day. Welcome to Why I Left Religion with Coach Renz. If you are finding me for the first time, we deconstruct religion for the most part on this page. Today, we're going to start an interesting journey of a very transformational book in my life, and that is the Gospel of Thomas. It was transformational in my life. I got to admit it. When I discovered the Gospel of Thomas for the first time in, I was in 1993, actually. Early 1993 was it early 1993 or late 1992? Anyway, it was in that late 1992, early 1993 time frame. One of my pen pals had sent it to me. A gentleman I knew that I met in Israel the year prior had sent it to me. Asked me to read it, tell me what I thought about it. So, what is the Gospel of Thomas? And we're going to read through it on Thursday. This is our book of the week. Oh, well, not of the week, you know what I mean. This is our book, our Thursday book club book. It's the Gospel of Thomas. Where are although I have several versions of it, I didn't. Most of them are study versions that I had. I didn't want to use any of the study versions, so I am using. That's not even the right page. I pulled up the wrong thing. Where is it? Where is that damn PDF? There it goes. I am using because it's just straight sayings. It's not descriptive or anything like that. This is from the Stanford University. This is Stanford University's version. That was done by Harry Camp Memorial Lecturer Ellen Pagels. From a scholarship translation published in the Complete Gospels. So this is just the version that they use at Stanford University. There are plenty of versions of it where people will give, it's inundated with other people, whoever wrote its thoughts and ideas of it. This one is used more for classroom study. So that's why I chose to use this one. There are plenty of other ones where you can, whoever they kind of did it, how we're going to do it, how I'm going to do it, where I will talk about it. But there are others who have done interpretations of what they think it means. I think one of the vital things of that is understanding where the person's perspective comes from. Like, as I was preparing for this, of course, several videos pop up on YouTube as far as people's thought process on it. I was looking for more just to remember the historical basis of it, as far as the time frame of his writing, what speculative time frame on his writing, and that sort of thing. I really wasn't looking for somebody's opinion, but there were plenty of people coming from, I'm a Christian, and this is my thought process on it. I'm a Buddhist, and this is my thought process on it. So you're going to get that as you do your research and study. But the thing about the Gospel of Thomas is it's all about you. It's all about you. And from the perspective of you, this is what you have to read this from. Even everything that I'm going to say, you still have to take it in and pretty much make it about you. Now, there are some things that people have made about them that just pure slap unadulteratedly wrong, simply because their basis, their foundation is jacked up. There are certain perspectives you just can't come from with this book. And to be quite honest, I don't believe a person can be Christian and still accept the Gospel of Thomas. It just doesn't jive well. The things the Gospel of Thomas, the thing is, Gospel of Thomas portrays two very different Jesus characters. And because the two are very different, unless you're saying Jesus was a schizophrenic, not trying to dog schizophrenia or make light of it, but he would have to have multiple personalities in order for you to say that the Gospel of Thomas version of Jesus and the canonized Orthodox Church version of Jesus are the same being, because although there are similarities, there are very much some differences. The Gospel of Thomas is also, I just jumped off I read somebody's stuff and that threw me off. So I started reading this around 1993, 92, 93. And I first tried to marry this book up with Christianity and tried to make it work. But this book spoke to me in ways that the Bible had never spoken to me before. Like, this book really was the next big push in my movement of walking away from religion and Christianity. Right. Oh, this was a big book for me. And I hope that is the same for others. And ultimately, when I decided to walk away from religion, this was one of the books that I still said I will still carry, I will still read. Now, when we do as we get ready to go, when we get ready to go through this book, hold on. Yeah, I can turn that to you. Oh, my little disclaimer. I own a cigar lounge. If that bothers you, then it's not my problem. As we go through the book, we want to stick to questions that pertain to what we're talking about. We don't want to go too far to the left or to the right. There's a certain amount of the book that I want to get done on each Thursday. Of course, we have until 12 to get it done. Well, to 12 to get past any reading. After 12, we can talk about anything. There's a difference between believing in God and religion. Religion does not mean you are really going to end up in heaven. God is good no matter what he's given us as an opportunity to make. Okay, if that works for you, Moshe, is it Moshizi? Okay, Ruth, if that works for you, fine, that works for you. But as far as those who come to this channel, we do not accept that type of mentality. There truly is no separation between what people are calling religion and relationship and you're following Christianity. There's no difference between the two. You can claim there to be one because you're saying that I'm more in a relationship and not as ritualistically following religion. But yes, you are still following the religion that was created long before you had a voice in and was able to speak to this situation. That governments long before you created this religion that you now are calling relationship with God, because you believe that you're reading between the lines of your religious book. But the book in itself is the religion that is captivating people and binding people. And the fact that you say that you have a choice, you really don't have a choice, because the choice is love me or I will send you to an eternity in hell. This is what your book says. This is what your doctrine teaches. That's not a choice. That's Sophie's choice. I don't know if you know the reference of Sophie's choice, but Sophie's choice was a I don't know if it was a real situation, but it was a movie that I saw as a kid. It was a in my psychology class, and it was like the dilemma: choose which child is going to live, your son or your daughter. This is during Nazi Germany, concentration camp. Son or daughter, which one is going to live? If you choose yourself, I'm killing both of you. I'm killing everybody. I'm killing both your kids. If you don't choose one of your kids, I'm going to kill both your kids. So Sophie had to choose, and she chose for, I believe she chose for her daughter to live. So the soldier killed her son. What choice did Sophie really have? She had no choice. So when the choice is love me or go to hell, that's not a choice. That's a man saying, love me or I'm going to beat the hell out of you. That's not a choice. It's not a choice. I believe, Ruth, you're a woman. If you're a woman, I think, by the picture. If I said either you love me or I'm going to break every bone in your body, what choice do you have? You don't really have a choice. You don't. I'm going to break every bone. And that's being light compared to what this guy is saying. No. And that's all I'm entertained on that idea, because we don't have time for that today. Hey, Cynthia, Todd, Debbie, how y'all doing? Oh, cool. I always try to be respectful to people's name and when I'm calling them dude or lady, fella. So today, the Gospel of Thomas. Now, the Gospel of Thomas, they have no idea when this thing was written. Some people think that it was written that it might be the QLM. I actually at one point thought that it might have been this fabled book, the QLM, or this infamous book, the QLM. The QLM was, or the Q, was a mysterious book that that is claimed to have been used to Grand Rising Clinton, used to finish off the Gospels. If you do your biblical studies, you will realize that none of the Bibles were complete in the way that we have them. None of the Gospels or any of the writings were in a complete form. They were all missing pieces. Matter of fact, the oldest portion of any Bible, any Gospel they have is Mark, and all they have is one little scrap from it. It's not even a complete phrase or anything of that nature. It's just a little scrap. So none of them were complete, and to complete them, which lets you know that people added to them, one of the books they claim to use was the QLM, and Mark was the most complete book that they had. They did have a version of Mark that was the most complete, and they used Mark and the QLM, used the QLM to finish completing Mark to a certain degree. Later on, they added more to Mark because Mark didn't have the whole aftermath of the resurrection. So they added more to Mark later. So it was believed that the Gospel of Thomas could have been the Q. So in believing that it could have been the Q, so I used to think that it was the Q. But one of the problems with that is that some of that when you look at it from a point of other scholars and church fathers of the day, back in the day, those for and against the people and everything, they had a habit of mentioning other books, but Gospel of Thomas was hardly ever mentioned, if at all, until into the second century. Now it's possible that it wasn't mentioned because it just wasn't that popular of a book. Kind of like if we have a book today, it might have been written back in the 1950s, but nobody talked about it. So that doesn't negate when it was written. It's just one of the ways that they try to date books. But the Gospel of Thomas is a funky dating. It could be first century. Most likely is second, third, or even fourth century writings from, and it was picked up highly by the people who, it's not necessarily Gnostic. It's claimed to be Gnostic because it was found with the Gnostic people in their other writings. It was found at Nag Hammadi in 1941, I believe. no, 1945. It was found in Nakamati. 45 or 47, it was found in Nakamati. And really didn't escape the clutches of the Vatican. And I say that to mean that didn't escape the clutches of the Vatican until like 10, 15 years later, when some priests snuck it out. And it was kind of crazy how they did it. And every Thursday, I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm just doing it this one time. The story goes, the situation goes that there were multiple, when they bring in a new, something that they found into the Vatican, and I know this part is real, they take a part of it, and I'm going to give it to this priest, this scholarly priest, and I'm going to give this part to this priest to translate, and they spread it around so that nobody knows what they have. Not one person is going to be able to translate the whole thing. Each person translate just parts. Well, and then they keep these guys separate. Well, somehow these guys got together and somehow they snuck it out of the Vatican. It felt like the world should know about this Gospel of Thomas. That's how important it was to those priests who found it, those priests who was translating it. And so it got out and it became huge for a while. Then it died off and then it became huge again. So it goes back and forth. And it goes back and forth, I think, because of the alchemical mindset of people. As we go through waves of enlightenment, this book is more about enlightenment than it is about anything else. And it's a book of sayings. It's not going to read like a story. It's not going to read like anything else in the Gospels or in the Bible. It's going to read like as if I followed Todd around and I just, damn, Todd, that was good right there. Let me write that down. And then a week, 2 weeks later, Todd say something else, giving a whole speech. But within the speech, he say something like, "Ooh, that was good too, Todd." And I write it down. So it's a book of sayings, which was a popular form of writing in all those centuries. So that's another reason why it's hard to decipher as far as when, because you can even go further back to the time of Marcus Aurelius. The Emperor's Handbook is just a bunch of sayings. So writing a book of quotes has been a popular thing, has been something. Hell, I remember in the 90s, I bought several books that were just quotes, you know. So it's hard as hell to know when this book was written. But can this book give an account of a historical Jesus? No. It is more likely written far too late to be able to be categorized as far as that. Now, this book could not be part of the Bible. Many people wonder why it wasn't part of the Bible. One, the four Gospels were kind of already companion early in the church histories in the first century and second century, on up to the third and fourth. So it was already a mindset of that. Then you had people like Irenaeus, who's like, since there are four corners of the earth, we're not going to get into a flat earth thing today. I guarantee we're not. Because there are four corners of the earth, there should only be four gospels. Well, he said, because there are only four corners of the earth and there are only four winds, then there should only be four gospels. Irenaeus wrote that, and the churchy guys, they followed it. So and then the Gospel of Thomas is not a narrative, so that wasn't going to be part of it. And then as we get through this, we'll see that the Gospel of Thomas basically tells you that the church don't mean jack, that you don't need the authority of a church. This is where we will agree, Ruth, that you don't need the authority of the church. You don't need the authority of man, which should negate the authority of man saying that because you got to understand, the church says they have the authority to write what they want and say what they want to say and are the true authority over the Bible. This is what the church says. And it also, in some instances, equates men and women as equal. And you know that shit wasn't gonna go down back in 325 hell, that wasn't gonna happen from 1970 and back. So 1970 back, you were not gonna get the equality of men and women in this book. So it wasn't going to be in there because it takes away the power of the government. And this is why I started loving this book. It took away the power of government, and it takes away the power of culture. It takes away the power of tribalhood, of authoritative, or takes the people holding the keys to infinite knowledge and the spectrum of life. So I was like, nah. The only person that matters when you read this is you. 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 Now you should grow in your as you grow, as you become more and more enlightened. These sayings is kind of like reading the Hermetica, or reading the Kabbalion, or the Emerald Tablets. The more enlightened you become, the meanings will get deeper and change on you. They won't mean the same thing. This book does not mean the same thing to me now that it meant when I was, 22. Wisdom, you grow in wisdom, hopefully. Hopefully I've grown. So even in this reading, I'm expecting new revelations as I read, as we go through this over the next several weeks. Here's something I wrote. I should not have worn a white shirt. Something I wrote years ago. Okay, so you believe in God, and your God is the true and only God, but your friend believes in their God. Oh, man, how long is this thing now? We can't be reading the whole. Oh man, bro, I can't read all that. That's too long. That's too long. See, that's when I need you to just come on here and you just talk to me, Todd, because that's too long. They left it out because they didn't want the people to know the truth. Todd, I'm sorry, bro. I'm not trying to be rude, but that's just too long. I can't even see it because I'm wearing this white shirt. They should be able to change the letter. Oh, on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, I tried, because I know I told the lady yesterday I was going to try to do closed caption on this thing, but it's just not. I don't know. I don't think I did it right. I don't think it was able to set up, and I don't think it does it over my phone. So tomorrow I do it over. I do Facebook will be on my laptop. YouTube will be on the phone. But anyway, so moving right along, because we've taken about 20 minutes just giving the prologue of it all. All right, so we're just looking at a version of the Gospel of Thomas that is purely just the sayings. No scholarly interpretations or anything of that nature, because then I would have to explain who that scholar was and their entire background and why they may describe it the way that they describe it. Most of you guys know me, so you know my background, so you will understand why I describe things the way I do. But you also know that you do not have to agree with me at all. At all. You do not have to agree with me. Matter of fact, you're more than welcome to disagree. And Facebook, when this volume, when you can't hear me no more, let me know so I can turn the other microphone on. Because these microphones only last they're charged for about an hour and a half. All right, so these are the sayings that the living Jesus spoke to Didymus, Judas, Thomas. And this is supposed to be doubting Thomas, but this is also the twin. Some scholars have tried to say that Thomas was Jesus's brother, that they were twin brothers. Most don't agree with that, but I have heard that, and you may have heard that thought process as well. But this is supposed to be the same Thomas that doubted that was Jesus reborn and needed to see some evidence. Sorry for being the one that needs some evidence. That's why I've always liked Thomas. Thomas like, I need some evidence. I'm not just because you say you Jesus, I'm not accepting that you're Jesus. But these first sayings, all of them, I love all of them, to be honest. Most all of them. But the first few really sets the tone for it. The first saying, and he said, whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. I never took that literally. I never will take that literally, because that would mean that your body wouldn't. Most people would take that literally to mean the body, the physical form that you're in right now, would never taste death. Even the first time I read that, I understood that it was saying that you will never walk in fear of death. You will never. Death doesn't exist, that there's no such thing as death, because you are an eternal conscious being. Like, as we get into this, you will understand where I get the idea of saying that this body is the poverty, this meat suit. If you've been with me for a while, you know I call this a meat suit, or I call this the poverty. This is what I've been doing that, and some of y'all have been with me for years, a decade or more. So you know I've been saying that for that time, all that time frame, because this body is poverty. This is the poverty. This is the meat suit. We're gonna get into that later on because it actually where I get it from comes from here. And what's funny is I said that to so many church people that there are church people going around utilizing that terminology and have no idea where they got it from. I always thought it was funny. So if you come to understand these things, then you're going to realize your true self. You're going to dig deeper and realize your true self and the true universe around you. You're going to realize if you were with us as we went through the Kabbalion over the last 12 weeks, 12 weeks, we went through the Kabbalion. If you want to go to that, go to my YouTube page, subscribe to it, but go to the playlist and you'll see a playlist for the Kabbalion. You're going to see how these sayings runs parallel in many cases to the Kabbalion, or the thought process of the Kabbalion. The Kabbalion tells you that there's no such thing as death. If you understand these sayings, there's no such thing as death. That's why one of the thought processes is that whoever wrote this, because I don't think that Thomas existed personally, but I don't think that whoever wrote this, they understood that, and they were an alchemist. Whoever wrote this understood the alchemical mindset, and they inserted it into this burgeoning religion that was spreading all over the known Western world at that time frame. It wasn't a known world because the people where they were, they knew who they were, and they knew the area they knew. But for this area of the world, they knew you can see this religious growing. You see it's growing. You're part of a different fringe mindset, higher, enlightenment, and you want to insert your enlightenment into this religion. I believe that there are those who their job of their society or whatever organization, let me rephrase that. I don't believe, I know that there are people out there whose mission is to insert alchemical mindsets into as many processes of life and things of life as possible. That is something I actually do know that it exists. And it's older than me. The organization, the whatever you want to call it, society is older than me. I think that whoever wrote the Gospel of Thomas saw what was going on, and this was added to the mindset, especially through the Gnostics, since they would have been the ones who have been most acceptable to this. Now, recognize by the time you get to 325, there were more Gnostic Christians than there were Orthodox Christians, but the Orthodox Christians were in the military. They were in the Roman military. They were in Roman society. So this is why Constantine had already sided with the Orthodox Christians way back in 318 at the edict, when he wrote the Edict of Milan, and first began courting the Christian bishops, but he courted only the Orthodox Christians because they were Roman citizens. The ones who wrote this and most of the Gnostics were not necessarily Roman citizens. So they got kicked to the curb. This is one of my favorite sayings. This is one of my favorite ones. And Jesus said, those who seek should not stop seeking until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed. When they are disturbed, they will marvel and rule over all. One of my absolute favorite sayings. This is a statement of enlightenment. This is not a statement of conquering the world. This is a statement of enlightenment, of conquering self. Now, if you've read the Bible, then this is parallel. This is almost parallel to what you see in Mark. And this is why some people were like, oh, this is the QLM, but no, it is not. Those who seek, because in Mark it says, seek and ye shall find. And there are versions of this that says, seek and ye shall find. But seek and ye shall find. But do not stop seeking until you find that it is a constant journey. That even as the wise person would say, the more I learn, the more I realize how much I do not know. So that means you have to continue to learn, continue to grow. So the more you seek, the more you will know, the more you will grow, right? Um, as you find, you say when they find, they will be disturbed. You will be disturbed. If you've ever opened your third eye, it is a disturbing yet awe-inspiring event. If you've ever went through, if you could remember going through how going through samsara, you'll be disturbing, but it's an amazing event. You'll be disturbed in multiple ways. Some try to say you'll only be disturbed because the immense amount of information that is now pouring in, and it could be an overload. No, that's a minor disturbance. The major disturbance is realizing how many things you believed in, you conceptualized, you thought was that is it. This is the facts of life. And now to realize that that's not it, that you have to unpack all these bags now. You have to unload everything that you have been carrying. Start fresh. Most people are familiar with the um, what is it? Most people are familiar with the Buddhist teaching of the master having a cup that is already have liquid in it, and he starts pouring and pouring, and it overflows. And the lesson is you cannot learn or add to the cup if your cup is already full. But it is very disturbing to throw out your cup, to pour out your cup. So to go through that, and most of us who are on here who have deconstructed or in the process of deconstructing from religion, if you grew up in a religion, born into one, you know how disturbing it is when you walk away. How many family members talk trash about you? How many of them disengage from you? Some people have lost spouses. They've lost the attachment to their parents or their children, brothers, sisters. Some have lost jobs and community and friends because they walked away from a religion, from Christianity, Islam, Judaism, any of them. That is a disturbing thing. That can be a lonely thing, right? And then when you go out and you try to talk to people about it, which we're going to get into one of those things that's coming up soon. You get in, you try to talk to some people about it. You find that these people, they don't listen. They ridicule. They come at you. They got daggers. You guys have seen when I've posted people coming at me talking about I'm going to die and they're going to come kill me. And one dude wanted to come here and wanted to fight. And I was like, come on, let's bring it. We can do it. I have no problems. Don't slip on 51. But the beauty of this is it says when they are disturbed, they will marvel. Because even in your disturbance, even as you're unpacking, your perception and perspective all begin to change. And as it changes, it's amazing. It is definitely awe-inspiring. You come to realize that the separations that you're having from other people is not so bad, that you can't truly be free and move without that separation, that without the disturbance, you can't move. How many times well, quit asking a rhetorical question. I often say that the point that people change is at the point that they experience too much pain. Ooh, that kind of rhymed a little bit. Then I didn't not intend for that to rhyme, but it did. But that is the point that most people change, is when they experience too much pain. Uh, that disturbance, somewhat painful, can be painful, also creates a change within your perspective and how you see things. And then you begin to change how you function. You change how you walk, you change how you talk, you change, how you dress, how you feel changes, your energy changes, your vibration changes, and the tribe around you begins to change. The things that you do begin to change. Everything about you begins to change. And it is a marvelous change because you see the world differently. You see the universe differently. And then it says, they will marvel and will rule over all. Not ruling over other people, but ruling over all of yourself. Ruling over all of yourself. Oftentimes I speak on controlling your sexual desires, controlling your gut instincts, controlling your love. Love is to be controlled, not just freely given out. Controlling what you say, controlling, the visions that you have, what energies are allowed in and out. Controlling every aspect, controlling your fears, your guilt, your shame, controlling the lies. I used to be a habitual liar when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was a habitual liar. Lie, 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 lie. I even told you guys when I was, I told the lie because I wanted to feel special and I wanted to impress Miss Ross, who was the first teacher I had a crush on. I told her that my mom was pregnant on an airplane and they had to have an emergency landing, and I was born in Gary, Indiana. I don't know why I picked Gary, Indiana. And then a few days later, they flew us down to Atlanta. And so I had to be special. And Miss Ross was like, ooh, ooh, ooh. That shit caught up with me a few years later. And it was the most embarrassing, painful thing. But if you tell that lie, you have to keep telling lies. And then I realized that you can tell lies. So, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade. I think I was in eighth grade by the time. No, I was in sixth, seventh grade, I think, when I found out. So them other grades, I'm just lying about everything. Lie, 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 lie. The more lies I tell, the more people gravitate to me, the more special I felt. And that shit caught up to me. It was the most embarrassing, painful year I had experienced in my life at that time frame. And so after that, nah, I'm not telling no more lies. But what I'm saying, how this relates, is that you control your truth. You control the truth of understanding. You don't have to embellish, to gain to gain good energy, good vibrations around you. You control your visions, what you see, how you see things. You control everything about you. Right? You rule over you, to rule over all your emotions. Like, I'm not saying anger is bad, but anger has its time, it has its moments, when it's good for you and when it's not good for you. Fear has its moments when it's good for you, when it's not good for you. Shame and guilt are only useful for you to be able to understand the mistakes that you may have made in your life and then how to reconcile those. That shame or guilt is only there to help you to develop into an understanding of it so that you can gain more enlightenment. And the more enlightened you become, the greater your ability to rule over your consciousness. The greater your consciousness rules, the more you rule over your body, the more you rule over your universe. And you continue to grow from that. It does get lonely, but I'm free to be me. Exactly. You can be lonely. It can be lonely, but it's free to be you. So it allows you that ability. And it is amazing. You're absolutely right. Saying number 3, Jesus said, which of course I don't believe Jesus said any of these things. If your leaders say to you, and this is going to sound familiar to something you've read in the Bible, if your leaders say to you, look, the Father's imperial rule is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the Father's imperial rule is inside you and outside you. When you know yourself, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father. But if you do not know yourself, then you live in poverty, and you are the poverty. So that is something that you've seen in the Bible, where it says that the priest will say heaven is in the sky or heaven is in the earth, but Jesus then says in the Bible, the kingdom of God is at hand. But in this, it goes further, and many of them are the ones that are similar. This one, Gospel of Thomas, generally goes a little bit further, which does kind of indicate that it might have been written after the other books. But when people are always talking, I don't do one of my daughters, what did she say the other day? She came to the realization, she had an epiphany. Of course, in my mind, I'm like, you didn't have an epiphany. Well, girl, I've been teaching you that your whole life. You just come to realize what I've been teaching you. But of course, I would not say that to her that way. But she said she had an epiphany that for all these people who are always saying that I'm trying, that trying never comes, that you either do it or you don't. That as long as you're saying you're trying, you're staying in a rut. So it either is or it is not. And that was her epiphany. And I was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. Keep growing, my little girl, that kind of mentality. Although inside I'm like, yeah, how many times have I told you that? But it doesn't matter how many times I've told her. The fact one is it clicked. So when people are always saying, kingdom of God is after this life, then all the dead has already gotten there before you. They're already there. And of course, people back then thought that the heavens was right there. And even I, as a child, the first time I flew on an airplane and that first flight was from Atlanta to LA, I was looking out the window, looking at the clouds. I was determined to see the Silver City in the clouds. I was determined to see heaven in the clouds. I was going to see it. And a couple times I could have swore I saw an angel. I thought I saw some stuff in the clouds, especially over Texas. When we was over Texas, but they thought it was right there. They thought it was right there. But of course, doctrine has changed, and people will say, "Oh, heaven is conscious, different, astral place." Well, everybody else has already beat you there, if that's the case. But if it's under the sea, the Egyptians used to say they thought that heaven was in the underworld. The Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, many cultures called it the underworld. They thought it was under the ground. The worms already got there. Everything else is already down there if they beat you. But he said rather it's inside of you and outside of you. It's all around you. Everything is already it. It's all of your everything outside of you is your perception of whether or not you can have heaven today. You can have hell today. You know how we like to say I had a slice of heaven today? Because you had a moment in your day that it was supremo, it's perfect. You can have that any moment, any time when you realize who you are. Because when you know yourself, then you will be known and you will understand that you are the children of the living Father. But if you do not know yourself, then you live in poverty and you are the poverty. When you don't know who you are, when you don't know the extent of your consciousness as being an eternal thing, as being pure energy, that you can manifest whatever it is that you desire to manifest if you're willing to understand how the laws of the universe work, because the laws of the universe and everything around you functions the same no matter what plane of existence we're talking about. So heaven is everywhere. And because we understand the law of polarity, hell is everywhere as well. You can create your own hell, right? I was thinking about a person the other day, and this person, and I'm saying this person because I don't want them to, I'm not going to put their name out there like that. This person constantly put themselves into financial hell for as long as I have known them. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've had my ups, I've had my downs. I've had my heavens, I had my hells when it comes to finances. But as long as I've known this person, and when I listen to the history of this person, from the moment they stepped outside their parents' house, they have been in financial hell. All created by themselves. All because they have this, and I try to get them to understand, you don't know who you are. You have a poverty mindset. You have a victim mindset. And this is why you will perpetually be in this situation. And I thought about them because they popped up on my Facebook, and when they popped up, I saw, the commentary. I can tell they're still struggling financially. And I'm thinking, you're over 40. I don't want to give a closer approximation to their age, but I'm just going to say you're over 40 and you're still suffering through this because you've manifested it yourself, because you don't know who you are, right? You are who everybody has made you into be. You are what people expect you to be instead of being you. And if you were to be you, then you're going to do the things that are beneficial to you. You're not going to do things outside of that. But when you don't know yourself, you live in poverty. Poverty of the mind, poverty of spirit, poverty of life, poverty of joy, poverty of love, poverty of every goddamn thing. You are constantly living in poverty. And then if you stay in it long enough, you will become that poverty yourself. You will become the poverty that other impoverished minds then become poverty themselves. You will cause your children to become poverty. This is what some people want to call a generational curse. It is not a curse. It is hypnotic rhythm. It is the hypnotic rhythm is when you get into it, you do something and you make it into a habit. And then you get it into such a habit that you can think opposite of it, but you still do it. Or you don't even have to think about it at all. And you still will do that thing. That is hypnotic rhythm. If you've read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, then you understand that completely. You should understand that completely. But that is hypnotic rhythm when you can be like, hey, I'm just so tired of it. Oh, like right now. This got to go. I do a little bit of exercise. I've been doing a little bit. But the hypnotic rhythm of sleeping too damn long keeps me from doing it. No matter what I say, I could say, go to get ready. Okay, I'm getting up tomorrow. I'm working out. I know I hate working out in the morning. That's the biggest problem. I hate working out in the morning. I cannot stand to get up and then go work out. I right now is my time to work out. Anytime between now and before I go to sleep. But I need like 5-6 hours, 4 or 5 hours being awake before I go work out. I hate working out. But no matter how much I say I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get up. Okay, today I'm gonna get up. And every now and then, this maybe twice a week I get up. But that's not enough. But the hypnotic rhythm that I've gotten in for the last 2 years of running this company is I don't get up until 9 o'clock. So at 9 o'clock and be here by 10, to try to be here by 10 so that I can get this thing going no later than 10:30, it's not gonna work. I'm in a hypnotic rhythm. No matter what I say, I have to break the hypnotic rhythm. When you're in poverty of the mind, you're in a hypnotic rhythm. Now, I got it for that. But when it's encompassing the overwhelming majority of your life, you're living in poverty. And then you become that poverty. Once you become the poverty, I'm not saying it's impossible for you to break free. But what I am saying, you most likely not going to break free from that until you come back again. Most people just simply aren't willing to go through what's necessary in order to change it. And the thing that's most necessary is to know yourself. And it's even like the 12-step program. The first thing about knowing yourself is to admit all the jacked up things about yourself, all the things about yourself that you may not like. You don't want to hear that. If somebody else said about you, you be ready to fight. But the first thing is to recognize who you are. And if you're a jacked up individual, then recognize first you're a jacked up individual. Right? Recognize that you're a jacked up individual. Because until you recognize the issue, you can't start working on it. Because you're going to be lying to yourself. So you have to get recognized. I'm jacked up. I'm messed up. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. I'm a bad this or that or whatever. Until you first do that, you can't begin to change it. And then you can start the process. That is part of the seeking. You shall seek and keep on seeking until you find it. And you will be disturbed, and then you will marvel and you will reign over all. It's part of the process, realizing that where you are in the poverty and that heaven is all around you. Heaven is all around you. You can grasp it at any time. You can supersede it. You can go beyond it. And it's definitely not found in religions. I'm a terrible liar. I always had trouble trying to lie to people, willingly lying to people. Got good. That's good. Hopefully that made the volume better. Number 4. I am going through this way slower than I thought I would be going through. Oh shit. There's like new comments and this thing has not even. That's why I live. That's why I live. Oh, shrooms, man, keeps you me. That's why I live shrooms. Man, keeps me honest to myself. Helps me to keep myself honest. Oh, you know, I'm an advocate of shrooms. Also like them for that wherever you are in your ability to be enlightened, to be open-minded. For me, it takes me another level. It helps me to go even higher. And to be even, and I'll tell you, to even be even more honest with myself. I will say the last time that I did shrooms, it was on the beach in North Carolina and feeling the power and energy of the ocean just surging through my body. I was so angry at my current life because I know that I am a shadow of who I could be. Shadow. So I was so angry. And so I came back committed to the movement forward of becoming what I say about what I say at the end of every video. You know, you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. My greatness should be non-negotiable. My greatness is non-negotiable. But I realized I'm functioning at such a lower level than where I should be right now. And and I do realize that'll be a constant for me. I'm never going to feel like I'm at my peak. I would never feel like I'm at my peak. And I'm excited about that. All right, so number 4. There's 114 sayings. So we're not going to get through all of them today. Just go ahead and say that. Jesus said, the person in old days won't hesitate to ask a little child 7 days old about the place of life, and that person will live. For many of the first will be last and will become a single one. Now, this one often throws some people off because they're not saying that a little child is all of a sudden going to be able to speak about the understandings of the kingdom or high spirituality. Even though people will say, "Oh, I met this little child, and they were old soul," and all y'all old souls. Every last one of y'all is an old soul. All y'all been here before. Everybody. So everybody's an old soul. Some just come in with more memory or more enlightenment than others. But just because a person, my kids love music from back in the day, and part of that's because I used to play it all the time. All right. But the idea of not hesitating to ask a little child is just speaking on the situation that the children, they are the most recently returned from a different plane, a higher plane, or a different plane of existence. That's all it's saying. That then we come into this matter plane, and at a certain point we start to lose all of that. We start getting conditioned by everything around us, and so when it's saying it won't hesitate, it's just meaning that though they're more closer to, to the higher plane. That's it. That's all it's saying, right? Because they just came from the place of life. They just came from there. And it says that the little child 7 days old about the place of life, and that person will live, because that person who is willing to ask that, who understands that, is going to understand that they are not the poverty, and that they must continue to seek. For many of the first will be last and will become a single one. The people from the 1930s, 40s, 50s came before us, but maybe last in coming to higher consciousness because their minds were stuck in that time frame. They followed just that time frame. They may have been first, but now they will be last because they got to come back around again and hopefully gain enlightenment. Whereas people today who attain enlightenment will now be first, although they came last. But all of us, everyone, will become single eventually, is the idea, because we all return to the all, return to the single mind, the unimind. We all eventually get there. So that's about it today. Number 5, Jesus said, know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. For there is nothing hidden that won't be revealed. So know what you see, know what's in front of you. I can't tell Joel how to truly become enlightened, because I'm not with him. I'm not seeing from his eyes. I can only see from my eyes. So I have to, like when I coach people, what I look to do is make your experience validate your enlightenment, or create or cause your enlightenment. I can't make your enlightenment come from my perspective, my experiences. Like, I can tell y'all all about my experience of going to the Vatican, going to, what's that fool name? Going to Titus, going up to, not Titus, because I was, Constantine's Ark, going into the Vatican Library, going to Israel and being there a total of 8 weeks, going to Egypt. I can tell y'all about it, but until you do it, appreciate that, Donald. Until you do it, that was my experience. And then that was my experience at those ages. If you went now, you're not at the age that I went. So it's still going to be different because, well, things are different. I love Dubai. But when I loved Dubai, that was in 91. It don't look nothing like it did when I was there. And I would dare say I probably rather it still look the same way it was back when I went than how it is today. Because I was into the simple and gritty back then. So simple and gritty was cool. If I go today, it'll mess up my memory of Dubai. I don't want to go. Of course I will go, but I don't want to. But you understand what I'm saying? It have to be for you. You have to see what's in front of you. See the experience of enlightenment in front of you. Understanding all of this from your perspective. And then when you get to know, and remember, all these things are working together. When you know yourself, then what is in front of you will then become what is hidden. It'll be that. The things that are hidden from you will then become disclosed. Your energy changes, your perspective changes, then the people around you will change. And all of a sudden you start finding out more. And there's nothing that will be hidden from you. So number 6, his disciples asked him and said to him, oh, I love this one. I love this one. Okay, let me read it first. His disciples asked him and said to him, do you want us to fast? How should we pray? Should we give to charity? What diet should we observe? And Jesus said, don't lie and don't do what you hate, because all things are disclosed before heaven. After all, there is nothing hidden that won't be revealed, and there is nothing covered up that will remain undisclosed. y'all know I did a video a couple weeks ago where I was talking about the only sin is blasphemy against your own self, right? That's the only sin is blasphemy against your own self. It's doing the things that you hate. So when they were saying, how should we fast? How should we pray? How should we give charity? What diet should we observe? They're looking for religion. This is a separation. This is a difference. They are at this point looking for religion. We need a process. This is why I said I try not to give a process when I'm talking. I try not to, I'm not trying to create a religion. When people say, well, how, you know, and I know we all want instructions, you know, well, I want to manifest this or that in my life. What process can I do? Should I do sigils? Should I do circles? What should I do? And this is why people can get away with, oh, just write what you want to get rid of and put it on a piece of paper and throw it over your left shoulder, spin around 3 times, throw it over your left shoulder, you know, or the moon is rising right now. The moon is growing right now. Now, as far as if I was a farmer, I know how to use it as far as a farm situation. And I do think that energies work. I do think that there are some forms of magic that work. I do think that. Don't get me wrong. I do think that those things work. It's a growing moon. You're supposed to be adding things into your life right now. And the full culmination at the full moon is when you want to stop looking for things to be added and you want to start releasing at the end of when the full moon is over. If you was a farmer, and it was spring, because it's not spring right now. This is your planting season. So if there was a time, if there's a plant that needs to be planted now, then this is the planting time frame. You don't plant after a full moon, right? Even when you harvest after the full moon. So I get those things. I'm not taking away those things. But what I'm saying is that we put too much emphasis on those things because all of it comes from you, You can manifest new shit during a waning moon. You don't have to wait for the next new moon to start a process. All those things are just there to help you energize your own innate abilities. They're not there for you to lean on and hold on to like a crutch. But for many people, it becomes a crutch, and that's what they were looking for right here. How should we fast? How should we pray? How should we, all these things? And Jesus just said, don't lie. Don't do what you hate. Because all these things are disclosed before heaven. After all, there is nothing hidden that won't be revealed, and there is nothing uncovered up that won't remain undisclosed. Your true self will always be your true self. You cannot hide your true self. You cannot hide who you really are, So why are you doing what you hate? You should not. When you do what you hate, you are going against you. You are blaspheming against if you believe that you are a divine, energetic, spiritual being, and yet you are doing what you hate simply because you want to follow or be in line or follow what other people have done, then you are killing yourself. You're lying to yourself. It's just like when somebody gets into a relationship with somebody and all of a sudden you're doing a whole bunch of you're because you so want to be with this person, you're doing a bunch of shit that you hate doing, but you just want to be with this person, but you hate doing this or you hate doing that. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? And I mean, from the small things to the big things. Small thing to the big thing. I hate shopping. I'm not going to shop. I don't like shopping. I will avoid shopping at all costs if possible. I'm not doing it. So, but if a woman wanted me to go shopping with her and she just had to have me in the store with her, no. I'm gonna tell you right now, the only reason you'll see me somewhere shopping is because I'm going for lunch or I'm looking for the fashion show. That's it. I want to see you walk in and out that dressing room. Yeah, what you looking like? Come on over here. That's all I'm looking for right now. And that's the only reason I would go. Otherwise, I'm not going. I'm going for lunch. That's it. We was talking last night, me and Angelina, and she loves cooking. I don't. She would probably love it if I loved cooking, but Some people will say, oh yeah, I love cooking, just because they know she would love it. But I told her, I only cook out of necessity. I know how to cook. Nowhere near as good as she does, and kind of screwed that meal up last night. But I cook out of necessity. And some people, there was a time frame in my life where I would have been afraid to tell her I only cook out of necessity. You know, I would have tried to smooth it over, but I ain't got time for that. We don't have time to be lying to ourselves. You know, I cook out of necessity. If I had the option to never cook again, I would never cook again. But see, it is better to be honest about who you are than it is to lie about who you are. And that's what 6 is saying. Don't lie about who you are. Don't do what you hate. It's going to come out eventually. It's going to come out eventually. If y'all been with me, those who've been with me long enough know that I got duped. Damn counselor told me, lady, you bait and switch that man. You showed him everything that he wanted for a year and a half, and then he married you, and then you still showed him what he wanted for a little while, and then you switched it up. Bait and switch. You can't do that. It don't work. It's better to just be who you are from day one to everybody you meet. People walk in here, they get the same from me that everybody else does. If you can handle it, great. If you can't, all right, bye. This old man almost got cussed out yesterday, though. I'm tell you, he almost got cussed. I forgot to tell Angelina about that, but he almost got cussed out yesterday. You know, coming here telling us, oh, I'm just what kind of cigar you looking for? After he came out the humidor, I was looking for a good cigar. There are plenty of good cigars in there. What's your palate? You got any AJs? You don't have any AJs. I got the AJ last call. Oh, but you ain't got the AJ this. That man almost got told, get the fuck out of my store. Get the fuck out. Just say I don't have the brand that you're looking for. Don't come in here and disparage all my cigars by saying they ain't got no good cigars. And cuss your ass out. But I had to be Renz the businessman right there. And not cuss out the old man. But he almost got cussed out. So stop doing what you hate. If you hate drawing sigils, stop drawing sigils. You hate lighting candles, stop lighting candles. You hate meditating, stop meditating. Don't do none of those things that you hate. If you hate going to church, stop going to church. If you hate going to church, then maybe that ain't the thing for you. And that's one of the things I had to realize. I hated going to church. There was only one time I liked going to church, and that was when I was between the ages of 15 to 17, 18, because all me and my friends and my little crew, we used to be up there, and we used to be there. That's where they were, and we were there, and we just be in the balcony playing and talking. We weren't paying attention to nothing that was going on. And then we did have Reverend Dillon, and Reverend Dillon was all about the youth, and we used to go all kind of places. He used to take us to all kind of events. So Reverend Dillon was great. But other than that, I ain't like church. I ain't never liked church. I used to lay up under the pews and go to sleep. Now, this is one that many Christians confuse. And many people who read this are going to confuse because later on it's going to talk about a lion as well. But it's not in the same vein. All right. Number 7 says, Jesus said, lucky is the lion that the human will eat, so that the lion becomes human. And foul is the human that the lion will eat, and the lion still becomes human. Now, in a later one, it talks about how the enemy is walking about like a roaring lion. And I think in the other gospels, it talks about that as well. This is not in recognition of an evil one or something like some other deity walking around like a lion. It's not what it's saying. It has nothing to do with that at all. This is totally separate. This is all about perception. All about perception and you being able to see things how they are. Listen to the words. Jesus said, lucky is the lion that the human will eat, so that the lion becomes human. And foul is the human that the lion will eat, and the lion still will become human. So our perception of life is that if The lion is going to become human no matter what. Whether the lion eats the human or the human eats the lion still becomes human. But we say lucky is the lion that the human will eat, and foul is the human that the lion will eat. From our perspective of self-preservation, although we're getting the same results, one is positive and the other one is negative, but they're both the exact same. All the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Kabbalah, Christianity, and all its variations, Islam, Shiism, whatever it's called, and all their variations, they all supposedly worship the same God. But you worship Jesus, so you foul. Oh, you worship Abraham, so you foul. Oh, you worship the fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you foul. And Moses and all that, you foul. But they see themselves as all, I worship Jesus, so I'm lucky. God is lucky because I worship Jesus. God is worship because I follow Allah and the Prophet Muhammad. God is lucky because we follow the laws and the old fathers. But all y'all are following pretty much the same deity, because all y'all start with Genesis. So what is the difference? And for some people who are like in our mindset and the mindset of most people on here, we say that there are many pathways to the same place, but yet we will say their way is foul, their way is foul. We won't say that. We just like, man, follow your own path. I don't give a shit. You know, just as long as you ain't killing my kids and murdering babies and stealing and all that kind of stuff, follow whatever path you choose to follow. I do not care. Right? But that is all a perspective. You get in the same place, but it's all perspective. And I think the example that was used here is something that's just so big that people do it. Just, you know, I watch a lot of those little nature videos, and the ones on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, when a person, like the leopard kills the little deer and people getting mad at, why is the photographer not helping? Why the snake is eating some gerbil? Now, the snake was eating a rat, they don't have nothing to say. But if it's a cute little rabbit or, you know, a little gerbil, some other little cute animal, then it's like, oh, wow. Then they mad. Why aren't they helping? Why aren't they helping the cameraman? You're sick. Get standing there. It's the circle of life. Now, if a human killed the snake, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Same person, I don't blame him. I'd kill that snake too. Good. Or if the mongoose eat the snake, good. You understand what I'm saying? It's all about perspective. When it comes to something that everything ends in the same thing or comes to the same conclusion, your perspective of who's better and which way is better and which way is not, is relative to your perspective. So let go of your perspective. Basically, let it go. Number 8. And he said, the human. Wait a minute. I ain't wearing my glasses. And he said, the human one is like a wise fisherman who cast out his net into the sea and drew it up from the sea, full of little fish. Among them, the wise fisherman discovers a fine, large fish. He threw all the little fish back to the sea and easily chose the larger fish. Anyone here with 2 good ears had better listen. Most of us got 2 good ears. I know I tried to do the closed caption thing on Facebook. It didn't. I don't know if I think it worked, but most of us got 2 good ears. So you better listen. The best one is 2 apes fighting and someone where they're in a fight. 2 apes fighting and someone says, "Where's the zookeeper?" Yeah, that's stupid. But let them apes do their thing. So in this one, the fisherman cast out his net. So I've heard some Christians try to liken this into, if all you can do is go out there and cast out your net of truth, and if one person it's saying you've done your job. Or that bullshit that you hear people say, if I can just help one person. That's I never agreed to that. If I can just help one person, whatever. Hell no. No, 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 no. What this is really saying, and you are more than welcome to disagree with me, is that when you catch a whole bunch of fish and there's a bunch of little ones, but there's one big one, then you choose the big one. When I cast my net out of information of truth, I can cast it out with a whole, each fish represents levels of facts, levels of truth. I can cast out and catch a whole bunch of truths, right? But it is the big truths that matter. I can feed you better on a big fish than I can on a whole bunch of little big ass fishes. I know fish is plural, but a whole bunch of fishes. I can feed you better on a big fish than a bunch of little fishes. Right? If I caught the 30-inch grouper, I can feed more people on a 30-inch grouper than I can feed people on a whole bunch of crappies. I think it's called a crappie, right? I'm not a fisherman. Just to let y'all know, I don't fish. But that's the enlightenment of this. Big, healthy, major, supported information, knowledge will enlighten people better than a whole bunch of little bitty shit. A lot of people in our walk will get hung up on things like, oh, the letter J wasn't invented until, the 1600s. And y'all calling him Jesus. You don't even know his name. You go through transliterations, or you can, even though transliterations, it has a point that is just a transliteration up to Jesus. But the problem is Joshua is a name that could have been transliterated as well. And the name is still Joshua. So, motherfucker named Joshua. But that's a little fish. The letter J is a little fish. The fact that there were over 125 different historians who were in the Levant area during the time frame that Jesus supposedly walked, and not one of them spoken about this Jesus, and the fact that the first historians to speak about this Jesus was at least 60 years after this Jesus had been supposedly crucified, it's a bigger fish. It's a bigger fish. Being able to show the contradictions in the book is a bigger fish than something small and simple, something that's a whole bunch of little bitty fish. So we want to focus on the big fishes, not the little ones. You want to put more time and study into the big fish, not the little fishes. So even when you're looking at truth of understanding who you are, before you deal with the smaller things about you that are easier for you to deal with for enlightenment, deal with the big shit first. Right? For a long time, I struggled with relationships because I did not trust people. So I had to deal with my levels of trust first. All right. And I need you to show me that I can trust you first. I used to have a bunch of friends. And then I realized, nah, I need to keep my friendship circle small. Deal with those bigger issues. I was cheated on twice in my life and it broke me down. I had to deal with the bigger issues of trust than to worry about all the smaller things. And let me follow this person. Let me keep track of this person. Let me see if they're telling me the truth. Let me find out where you were. Who are you with? Where do you go? I ain't got time for all that. I need to develop the trust first. I need to fix it within myself first. And my process of trusting people and evaluating people first. Let me deal with that. Then I can deal with the individual. Because then I can meet somebody like, no, I don't think that person should be in my life. Right? When it's things like finances, people want to deal with smaller things concerning finances first. When the first thing is, Do you have a budget? Oh, you don't got a budget. You don't know where your money's going. That's the big fish. Sitting up here saying, well, I'm going to cut this out. How do you know cutting that out? What kind of a difference is cutting that out going to make? If you don't even know where everything is going, where the bulk of things are going, you got to figure that out first. You got to have a budget. Get the big fish. Get a budget. Let's look at your budget. Go through your bank statements for the last 3 to 6 months. Track every dime, every dollar, every penny, where it went. Put them all in categories. Organize those. Put them all in categories. Then look at those categories on a spreadsheet and see which categories have you been spending the most money in, and that is telling you where your money is going. And then you can start to break down how you can manage your money better. And now maybe your ass can work your way out of it, and in 1 to 2, 3 years, you won't be suffering financially no more. How about that? Big fish. Let's get the big fish first. Because if you're an enlightened person, then you're tackling all kinds of issues that you deal with. You have to, it's full circle. It's a whole circle. Infinite growth equals capacity. I have a formula. it's capacity is C times B squared, which is a balanced business life and a balanced spiritual life, equals infinite capacity. Infinite growth. But you got to look at what your capacity is right now. This is like something I do with all my clients. You got to look at your capacity that you have right now. Everything that's within your first initial capacity circle, where are things lacking? Now you have to get balance between those things. As you balance all the things that are within your capacity right now, you can now expand your growth. And then you balance everything within that expansion, and then you can expand your growth again. It's a constant process that you go through, but it's all about expanding your growth. But you have to have balance. If without balance, you will not be able to grow. If you overemphasize one area in your growth than another, it's like having a bump in a wheel. It goes around, it can move, you can get some places, but as you travel, you hear that, and then you go faster. And if you go too fast, all you hear is, and then after a while, the tire's gonna burst, and you're gonna be on a flat tire on the side of the road. So you got to get balance in your life and fulfill your capacity before you try to expand yourself. Y'all have them ladies down there. I know you was a pimp in your former life. No, sir, Terrence. I don't see, you made my microphone thing fall. Some people gonna say that, oh, it fell because it was like, man, you lying to the mic. Perspective, right? Or just cause and effect that this thing, I don't know how to tighten it. And every now and then it falls. I have not been a pimp in my life. I am hurt by that. Oh, utterly hurt. Moving on. What was that? That was 8. So 9. And you've seen this one written in the Bible before as well. Jesus said, look, the sower went out, took a handful of seed and scattered them. Some fell on the road and the birds came and gathered them. Others fell on the rocks and they didn't take root, and they didn't take root in the soil and didn't produce heads of grain. Others fell on thorns and they choked the seed and the worms ate them. The others fell on good soil and produced a good crop. It yields 60 per measure and 120 per measure, right? The numbers are not important. It is what it's saying, right? And, in church, you grew up being taught that this was, they teach this one in church about spreading the seed, and some people are going to be good fertile soil, and you got to be good fertile soil. You good fertile soil for the Lord. The Lord is looking for good fertile soil to plant a seed. You got to be good fertile soil. You got to be ready. Humble yourself for the Lord. Be that good fertile seed. And if you want to be good fertile seed, go ahead and put $20 in that envelope. But if you want to be greater seed, put 120 in that envelope. You know what I'm saying? Y'all heard that sermon. You've heard that sermon. That is not what it's talking about. That is not what it's talking about. It's not. This is about an enlightened person once again. An enlightened person will not spread seeds and scatter them on the road. They wouldn't scatter them amongst the rocks. They wouldn't scatter them amongst the thorns. They would only scatter them on good soil. Matter of fact, they would only plant them on good soil. There are literally hundreds of people on Facebook who comment on my videos. I literally ignore 95% of them. The only one that I give you see me do a video is because their statement allows for a good video for the people that I know I'm planting that's gonna come out wrong. But I know that I'm planting that those people are good soil for what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to convince the person who is headstrong, I love Jesus, relationship, God, Bible, going to hell. I'm not trying to plant seeds in those people. Those people are rocks. They're thorns. They're the hard as a road. There's a pastor. There are few pastors who are on my page who are always having something to say. I don't say nothing to them for the most part, unless they say something that, ooh, that's a good video. I can make a good video that is going to be beneficial to those who are good soil. Those who have already made this decision. Do not waste your truth. Do not waste enlightenment on those who are not good for it. There's a few people in here who like to talk to me about masonry or say something about masonry. Masonry has a saying. This is one of the core things of masonry. Making good men better. Not making men better. Making good men better. If you are a felon, you're not supposed to be able to become a mason because you have proven yourself to not be a good man. If you rape somebody, murder somebody, you are not supposed to be able to become a mason because you're not a good dude. So why waste the knowledge of masonry on somebody like that? Right? You don't. If I was really being honest, well, I'm always being honest. Masonry truly is about enlightenment. Okay, it's about individual enlightenment and brotherly and brother, and it's about the brotherhood, but it's about enlightenment and helping each brother become more enlightened. Right? The deeper mysteries in masonry is all about enlightening, become more and more enlightened. It ain't all this control the world kind of things, although enlightening the world is part of it. So this is why I know I can't say I know. This is why I know my page don't grow as fast as some of these other pages grow, because I'm not trying to get everybody. I don't care about getting everybody. I'm only concerned about people who are good soil. I'm not throwing this onto rocks. That's why I don't return. So for all you rocks who are listening to this and you wonder why I've never, and some of them they try to goad me, right? Oh, you scared. I'm not afraid of you. The ones who sent me DMs and I don't respond to you, I'm not afraid of you. It's a waste of time. I'm not wasting my time. The time I waste on you is time I take away from Terrence, from Debbie, from Papa Soul. What's up, bro? From Donald, from Raquel, from Dala, Teresa. I give y'all my time. I'm not giving my time to those people. If you were in prison because you sold drugs in the past, can you become a Mason? It is possible. You would have to find some brothers or lives that is willing to take you through what's called a healing process. Well, that's not a healing process. You have to find some brothers who are willing to reevaluate you based on who you have been for at least the last 10 years or so. And then they will take a vote on to whether or not they're going to say you've learned your lesson, you are now a different person, and you can now become a Mason. So yeah, you have to, it's possible, but you have to find a lodge that's willing to go through yours. And because it's selling drugs, they may let you do that. I used to be part of a lodge that would allow people to go through that process. And not all of them were voted in. Some of them still had behaviors and attitudes and was living their life that I was like, and all it takes is one person to say no. And I was like, I don't care what none of y'all say. And nope, blackball. And if you've ever, so you got to be mindful of who you do it with, because technically, if you get blackballed one time, all of the lodges are supposed to respect that. So yes, I am exceeding power. I am one. Masons ain't got no room to judge nobody. And you evidently do not know Masons. You just know what people have said who do not know Masons. And in every organization, in every society, in every group, there are good people and there are bad people. I am not saying that all Masons are good. That would be a fallacy and that would be a lie. And anybody who would ever say that would be a lie. Of course, some bad people have been Masons. Of course, some bad people got into Masons. Of course, you have Masons who were given to the culture and they were slave owners and owned slave ships and so on and so forth. There, you're going to have it in everything. You're not going to find any perfect society or perfect group. And yes, the hell I can judge the hell out of some people. If you have committed murder, I can judge you. I most certainly can. And so can you. What are your thoughts on the Black Boule? Have they sold Black people out? I don't necessarily think that the Black Boule has sold Black people out in the sense that we would call it selling out. I believe that they bought into the idea that we can gain equality by going through their system and acting like they do. If we just build business, and build, we don't have to don't build Black business in Black community, but just build business. Just get into politics and we can vote and that sort of thing. That they believe in that system, that we can obtain equality and fairness for all Black people in that system. I honestly think it's just that who talked about the talented 10th, and I believe that's where the whole Boule thing started from. But it's people who believe that system will work for us, not realizing that system still is actually holding us down. W.B. Du Bois, thank you. So I don't think that there is a Black Boule conspiracy to hold Black people down. I think they just been duped into believing that it's just like a person who said, if I see a Black person say I want to achieve the American dream, I'm like, the American dream is a white man's dream. It's a Caucasian's dream. It's not a Black person's dream. This is a Caucasian dream. We have to create our own dream. The American dream is a Black person's nightmare. So, because the American dream is not a dream that benefits Black people, and I think Black people, and I think that's what the Boule, they think the American dream is would be a benefit to Black people. This chick messed my flawless jail record up with a lie, and that can happen. We're not going to get too far off track now. You got me wanting to hit up the cigar lounge this evening. Haven't been in a while. Well, until you hit up mine, I don't want to hear nothing about it, Pop. Nah, go hit up a cigar lounge, bro. Relax your mind, let your conscience be free. Now, get down with it, PMD. You know what? I'm gonna have to play that song today because it just popped in my head. Let's see. All right, 10. Jesus said, I have casted fire upon the world, and look, I'm guarding it until it ablaze. It's interesting. What's up, Mars? It's interesting that they use the term, he used fire. They cast a fire upon the world, and now he's just watching for it. He's guarding it until it becomes a blaze. This mindset of the Gospel of Thomas is like fire, because fire will burn down whatever it burns, whatever it touches. You know, for the most part, it burns whatever it touches. At least it heats it up. If it can't burn it, it's going to heat it up. But usually in the wake of burning, new life grows, right? So for him to say that he is casting a fire, I'm casting this truth onto the world. It's like a fire. It's going to burn. It ain't gonna be, people are gonna look at it negatively. But after its destructive, after the destructive nature of the fire, its ashes become fertilizer to the ground, and then new life grows. Much in the same way we talk about going into the age of Aquarius, right? The age of Pisces was burning down the age of what? Taurus? No, Taurus, Aries, I believe. What's the ram? The ram is Aries, right? So it's burning down the age of Aries, but now it's time to burn down the age of Pisces and go into the age of Aquarius, go into the age of a man pouring out water. Water brings life. Water is new, you know. It's a renewal, it's a consciousness, it's a new consciousness. It's moving into a silver. The Hermetic people say we're moving into a silver age from a copper age. You know, the Mayans, we're changing into the first, we moved from the 13th Batum back to the first Batum. 11. Jesus said, this heaven will pass away, and the one above it will pass away. The dead are not alive, and the living will not die. During the days when you ate what is dead, you made it come alive. When you are in the light, what will you do? On the day when you were one, you will become two. But when you become two, what will you do? All right, so we got to take this one step by step. All right. This heaven will pass away, and the one above it will pass away. This is heaven. It will have an end to it for you. You will ascend to a higher heaven, higher consciousness. It too will end for you, right? So know your existence in any plane is permanent. So when people talk about, I'm going to heaven, we're going to live for eternity in that heaven, there is no permanence in any plane of consciousness. Your consciousness will either, as in the pole, either move to the right or move to the left. It is, nothing is stagnant. There is no such thing as death, right? So it has to move. So the heaven now pass away. The next heaven that you go to will pass away. You have to keep moving. The dead are not alive, and the living will not die, right? Those dead in their mind, they will never be alive. If you're dead, they never come to life. They never will be alive somewhere else. We like to think, oh, I'm gonna see my grandmother again. Probably not. All right. That existence, that consciousness could be anywhere. There's no guarantees I'm gonna see that consciousness. And the living will not die, because all consciousness is live, so they do not die. So they are constantly moving. If my grandmother's consciousness came back to this matter plane of existence, but I go on to the next plane of existence, I will not meet my grandmother again. Right? I will not meet that consciousness again. Not at least during that next existence. I might meet her. Maybe she jumps 2 and I go 1 and we meet in that one. Who knows? Would they be my grandmother in that one? Probably not. But a familiar consciousness, a communal consciousness. Yeah. Can we share aspects of life? Sure. But not the same. Everything is not predicated on this body. Remember, this is poverty. When you are in the light, what will you do? And this reminds me a little bit of samsara. When you are in the light, are you going to choose to go into the light, or are you going to choose to go into the darkness, and then find another light, another portal, and come back into this existence? So what are you going to do when you are going through the whole death cycle? Because this is also talking about your whole, what is cycle of death here, right? There's no death, so you go into a whole death cycle. Are you going to stand in the light and go into the light of the next consciousness, the next dimensional plane, I should say, or are you going to be fearful? What is your choice? It's telling you, you will have the choice. There's no deity that's has a freaking book of judgment of life. You are making the choice. Saying my grandmother may reincarnate into your daughter or another relative. It's possible, or most likely she ain't gonna be nowhere near me. But the Akashic record of my grandmother's DNA is in me, which passes on to my daughters, which passes on to their children, and so on and so forth. But then there's going to be a compilation of a whole bunch of Akashic record DNA in that one. But in this, when you're going through this death cycle, you have a choice. You have a choice. You make the choice. There's no judgment other than the judgment of yourself to yourself, right? You will decide whether or not you deserve heaven or hell. You decide whether or not you deserve the next higher plane or you deserve punishment. It is all up to you. As Marcus Aurelius said in Emperor Handbook, it is up to you. I was once close to death and felt reborn afterwards, but the world put me back to where I was. And I am not trying to be rude, and the world put you back to where you was because you let them. You let them. You have to vibrate stronger than anything else around you. You are your biggest influencer. On the day when you were one, you became two. But when you become two, what will you do? So if you go into the light and you become one, and then you will become two again, separated from the all once again to exist in another dimensional plane, what will you do in that plane? What will you do? Will you continue to grow and become enlightened, or not picking on you, my guy, but will you allow the plane, the more dead mentality of that plane and become part of that dead mentality of that plane? Or will you continue? Oh, you're very welcome, Michelle. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And if anybody believes that there's going to be some type of judgment and somebody's judging you and all this bullshit, and you didn't believe in Jesus or Allah or some bullshit, you didn't satisfy your dharma, all you're doing is casting your own negative judgments on yourself and punishing yourself. That's it. That's it. It's like that person who says to themselves, I don't know why I keep attracting these men or these women who just constantly abuse and use me. I know why, because you are choosing to do so. You are choosing to allow yourself to be around those kind of people. You are emanating the vibration that makes those people realize, oh, I want to be with you. And then those people may want to be with you because I pick on Angelina because I tell her, I said, your energy causes people who desire to be like you to come and try to be around you. But the good part about it is that you don't allow most of them to get close to you, but you still allow some of them to come around you. That's why all your friends, all your associates are crazy. I call them her friends. She don't call them her friends. But just to pick on her, I say that her friends. But you allow them to associate with you. Some of her folk, I'd be like, hell no, you got to go. Don't call me. You got to go. Stop being around me. You stupid. You know. Ain't that right, Angelina, with your best friend? I'm going to pay for that one later, but I don't care. Best friend. Y'all should see her best friend. Oh, that dude. Anyway. You know, people come into this lounge because I told you guys, people come in this lounge. Yeah, I got jokes. People come into this lounge because of me. Some people come in here because of me, because of the energy I give, because of who I am, the fact that I can talk about damn near every subject with a great amount of information. Some people come in here looking for advice and all this sorts of things. And then some of them get confused and think that we're friends. And then when one of them tried to say that they want to be my friend, and I told them that what the process of becoming my friend is, they got in their feelings. And then they left and then came back. I don't care. Right? If I had to shut this business down today, it is not going to bother me. All right. Y'all just gonna see me selling cigars from the house. That's what y'all gonna see. I'm gonna take them lockers, I'm gonna put them at my house, I'm gonna fill them up with cigars, and I will sell these cigars strictly online. It don't matter. And I was thinking about that anyway, because I'm tired of being in here all day. I'm really getting tired of it. But anyway, so Debbie, you better hurry up and get over here. But basically, no matter what your state of being is, it's saying, what will you do? What will you do? What choice would you make? Are you going to make a choice for you? Are you going to continue to become enlightened? Are you going to gain all the knowledge you can from whatever existence you're dwelling in? Or are you going to allow everything around you to determine that? Think about it. During the days when you ate what is dead, you made it come alive. You can what you, I know it's talking about like food, like you eat a dead animal and a dead plant, and then it becomes alive because it becomes part of your body and it lives again, right? So are you going to take, it's the same thing is about your consciousness. When you take in new things, when you take in things that you go back and research things, you take in new information that may seem dead because the majority of people are not engaged in that. It's dead. You ever heard of dead books? Dead books are books that nobody reads anymore for the most part. The moment you read it, it becomes alive again. But what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? Hey, Brown Beauty. I hadn't seen you in a while. Or at least a comment from you in a while. You might have been on here. So how do you continue to shift your energy for better enlightenment? Okay, so let me read that again. How do you better shift your energy for better enlightenment? It is about the ability to be open to new information, but then to utilize critical thinking, which is taking in the knowledge, gaining an understanding from that knowledge, putting it into practice, and seeing what the results are. If the results are higher enlightenment, then keep moving forward, look for even more information. But if it doesn't give you those results, go back and check your facts, gain a different perspective. Hopefully new facts, additional information will gain you a new understanding, and then you put that into practice and you see what your results are again, and you keep moving, you keep recycling the process, right? The more and more you recycle the process, the more and more your mind becomes more and more engaged into enlightenment. If your emotions are blocking you, if your fear, your guilt, your shame are blocking you, if the world around you are blocking you, you have to, as I was talking about capacity, you have to find balance in all of that so that you can then grow and become more enlightened. But without that balance, without overcoming issues, without bringing in new understanding, you won't be able to shift, as you say, into a higher conscious state. And you have to have the will to do so. You have to have the will to do so. And your will has to be stronger than all the wills around you. Otherwise, you become a effect of their causation. So the strength of your will is vital. Let me ask y'all a question. If you are with a spouse, I'm talking about a girlfriend, boyfriend, fuck that. If you with a spouse, you pledge your life to this person. They got a government contract on your ass. But they are disabling your ability to become enlightened. Would you leave that spouse? Are you willing to leave that spouse? While you're typing, let me tell you a little story. The story of the Siddhartha Gautama, who becomes the Buddha. It was said that before he was born, that he was either going to be a great king or he was going to be a great prophet. At his birth, his father did not allow him to leave the castle. He wanted to stay there, and he didn't. He snuck out the castle. He saw death one time. He saw suffering. He saw three different types of suffering: death, illness, and poverty. I think are the three sufferings that he saw. Then he got a wife, and him and his wife was so in love. They were so in love. One time they was making love on the rooftop and fell off the roof and kept making love because they didn't even realize they failed. That's how in love they were. But when his son was born, he named his son, I forgot the Indian name for his son, but it means shackles, which is a fucked up name for your child, your son. But that he realized, he named him Shackles because he realized this will shackle me to this mindset. And so he crawled out the window and left his family that night, never to return. And then decades later, he becomes the Buddha when he was sitting under the Bodhi tree, right? And there's a whole lot of lessons in that, and even the whole part of sitting under the Bodhi tree, there's a whole lot of lessons in that are enlightening lessons. But he was willing to leave the comfort and wealth of being a prince and being heir to the throne, leave his wife, leave his kid for the search of enlightenment, for the freedom of the search of enlightenment. So, are you Siddhartha? Or are you Shackles? Angelina, if I was inhibiting your ability to grow, would you leave me? And you might as well answer now, because I'm gonna ask you. If you don't answer now, I'm gonna ask you when I see you today. So, but I'm curious. Slaughter said yes. Mental health is everything. Triple X said yes. A whole bunch of y'all silent. But my answer is yes, and is yes because I know I've done it a few times. Don't be talking some LOL. I know you would leave, Angie. Angelina, I know you would leave. I know you would. And I would like wondering if I probably would leave you if you didn't leave me if I was doing that. Because I would think something wrong with you. Like, okay, something wrong with this girl. If she wouldn't let me stifle her happiness, stifle her mental growth, her spiritual growth, no, you better leave me. I'd cry the tears. I'd be like, just give me one more chance. I can do better. I promise I can do better. Don't leave me. Please, just stay. Okay, I'm done. I know y'all don't expect me to be serious all the time. The disciples said, I am not an ass. I am not. I am sorry. Let me be more serious and speak to you in a way that is more understanding, something of more scholarship. Yes, I already know the answer, but I just wanted to ask in public. So, number 12, the disciples said to Jesus, we know that you are going to leave us. Who will be our leader? Jesus said to them, no matter where you are, you are to go to James the Just, for whose sake heaven and earth came into being. Right? Now, this one always threw me off, because James is supposed to be Jesus' brother, according to these stories. James is it kind of, every time I read this originally, I always thought that's some nepotism shit going on right here. You're gonna send them to your brother. That's like, we got to keep it in the family, you know. But he said, no matter where you are, and I'm thinking, where you are in your consciousness, you are to go to James the Just. What does James the Just represent? Not so much the actual individual, but James the Just, justice, you know, without emotional control, without fear and guilt or ego, you know, without selfishness, but just, it's just justice. It's just what it is. And for the sake heaven and earth came into being. Heaven and earth came into being because it just did. There is no high, no low. There is no middle. There is just is. There is all. There is everything, all encompassing. So for me, it was go to the mindset of things are just what they are. And since you feel like you have to have a leader and you're not ready to lead yourself, then use that as a metaphor. Then it's a metaphor for those who understand it. But for those who are still in the lower vibrations and require a leader, go to that dude. And as you're with that dude, hopefully you come to the realization. Right? So that's 12. If you are growing, you don't need a leader. If your eyes are open, you don't need a leader. It's not, you don't, okay. And understand I'm using the word need. You don't need a leader. It's okay to have someone who is enlightening you, who is giving you a different perspective for you to think about something. But always recognize that you are your first leader, and that person is just assisting along. I will give credit to the Bible and to this, that there is an emphasis on leadership being servant leadership. I lead to serve. I do not lead for my own gratification. I don't lead for my own growth, but to serve others. Oh, and let me point that out. That doesn't mean that damn leader got to be walking around broke as shit. All right. If you're going to allow someone, if you're going to take from someone, you should give to someone. This is where I do like the fact that this Jesus character in the Bible said that the lady who gave 2 pence gave more than everybody else who showed off and everything, because she gave from her heart. So I don't have a problem with people supporting a leadership wherever they're getting their information from. Right? A lot of us black people like to do that. Shit should be given free. Shit should be given free all the time. And they get mad at me when I have coaching programs. They get mad at me when I'm like, hey, you can't be sending me 50 damn messages and think I'm going to sit up here and then coach your ass all the way through this. It's not going to work. My time has value, right? Plus, other people are paying me, so why would I give away to you what they are paying me for when we're talking about things on a more personal level? So, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. So, because if a leadership gets overwhelmed and that's all they're doing, how is that person supposed to live? Now, where I draw lines is when you're abusing the people. When you're saying that I need a jet and we need to raise $30 million so I can get a jet so I can go around and evangelize the word of God. I have problems with that. Now, when somebody is at that level, of popularity, and they write a book, and all these people buy that book, and then they use that money from their book to go and buy whatever things they desire. Buy whatever the hell you want to buy. But when you're buying these things based on people giving to your church or giving to your organization, I got a problem right there. There's a problem. As we've been going through Leviticus, you can tell in Leviticus the priest of Aaron, the line of Aaron, is taking advantage of the people. Why we don't get Genesis 1:1? What do you mean by that, Patricia? Because what? Genesis 1:1. What was that? In the beginning, the world was in chaos, and the breath of God fluttered above the waters, and he said, "Let there be light," and there was light. What do you? I don't understand your question. So if you can explain that, write a little more about it. Anyway, I can maybe understand what you're saying. And while she's doing that, 13. What time is it? 12:36. Okay. 13. Jesus said to his disciples, "Compare me to something and tell me what I'm like." Simon Peter said to him, "You are like a just angel." Matthew said to him, "You are like a wise philosopher." Thomas said to him, "Teacher, my mouth is utterly unable to say what you are like." Thomas took the easy route, right? Jesus said, "I am not your teacher, because you have drunk. You have become intoxicated from the bubbling springs that I have tended." And he took him and withdrew and spoke these sayings to him. When Thomas came back to his friends, they asked him, "What did Jesus say to you?" They said it just like that too. "What did Jesus say to you?" And Thomas said to them, "If I tell you one of the sayings he spoke to me, you will pick up rocks and stone me, and fire would come from the rocks and devour you." Ooh, wait. So, what the hell are they talking about? Well, he wanted to know, what do y'all think about me? What do you think I am? Simon Peter and Matthew tried to be PC. "Oh, you're a just angel, my Lord. You're a just angel, beautiful. You're a wise philosopher. Yeah, smoozing up to you, rubbing my little brown nose in there." Thomas was somewhat honest. "I don't even know." Basically saying, "I don't know. My mouth is unable to say what you are. There are no words." And he said, "I'm not your teacher. I'm more like a guide, a symbol, something for you to learn to. You are your own teacher." He said, "But you have become intoxicated from the bubbling springs that I have tended." Pastor said, what Pastor said, the Pastor said. People like to ask me, "What is your reference for this? What is your reference to that?" Well, if you read Henry Clark, if you read Zimmerman, if you read this person's books and you read that person's book, then all you are drunk on their words. You're drunk on their opinions. You're drunk on their perspectives, their thoughts. But then he took Thomas and said some stuff to him. And of course, the other guy, what'd he say? He said something that was just for Thomas. It wasn't for none of y'all. It wasn't for the rest of y'all. There are things that I may say that's for some people, that's not for other people. There are lessons that when I work with people individually, there are people that I may teach one lesson to that I won't teach it to another person because it's not for them. They haven't shown themselves to be ready for that. Like, there are certain information that people just aren't ready for. And so he used a similar, if I told you, you'd be like, hell, you said some bullshit, and they will stone him. And, back then they used to stone the hell out of people. But he's saying that these rocks will come up and devour you. That because of what I've said, that he's told me, the information not literally devour you, the rocks will spring up fire, but the information would disillusion you. It would destroy your psyche, your mind. There are certain things that if y'all knew it would, and you're not ready for it, you can't handle it. That's right. You can't handle the truth. Right. Y'all know I love my movies. These dudes were patronizing the hell out of Jesus. Oh yeah, exactly. But there are things I've told you guys before that I explained the threat matrix multiple times. I love to use that as an example. When I first got to my unit in Europe, and my first introduction to the threat matrix, I had heard about it, but my first introduction to it, and I'm looking at this shit, and I ain't gonna lie, for about a week, I was like, if I didn't have to go to work, I wouldn't have went to work. I'd have stayed my ass in the house, because it seemed like the world was about to explode. It was too much. It was too much, right? And it could set off things in you, and it set off a fear in me for a minute. My aunt May, love her to life. My Aunt May is afraid to take an airplane outside of the country, a boat outside of the country, because she believes that if she were to leave America, they're not going to let her back in. For some reason, America cares about my Aunt May so much that she refuses to leave this country because she thinks that they're not going to let her back in. Even if it's on a boat, they ain't going to let her back in. Everybody else going to get back in, but she can't get back in. Some people just aren't ready for certain information. And if you give it to them, you have to be wise in to whom you speak to. Because if you give it to them, they won't be able to handle it. I don't tell y'all everything I know. Even in some of these subjects that some of these sayings that we've went across, there are certain levels of information that I hold back. Because some of it, if I said it, y'all would look at me and be like, oh, fuck, that dude, nah. I'm finna go out against him and talk all trash about his ass. But that same information will consume you. You may talk trash about him, but you're going to think about it, and it's going to be in your mind, and you're going to have this battle that is raging in your mind. And you're either going to come out the battle victorious and then come back and be like, oh, you know what, Coach Renz, he was right. Or it's going to like push you back into the church, or push you into some other religion or some other mindset that is not going to be to your benefit. It's not going to be a true thing for you. So when he said, I'm not your teacher, he says, because I'm not trying to teach you into something that is not of you. I'm just trying to guide you for self-discovery, right? So I find myself to be in that same situation, because I used to be, and I know this off of personal experience. I used to tell people, if you came and you talked to me, like Donald, when you stop by here and we talk, I used to be the guy that would have told you everything. But I guard myself based on the information I gathered from you on that day that we were sitting outside. And I had to only give out what I knew you could handle at that time. You understand what I'm saying? It's like when I was married to a Christian woman, and she would ask me questions about the Bible and about the history of the Bible. I knew I could only give her what she could handle. Otherwise, she would torment herself. So it's the same thing. What you say, Brown? It's a few that actually came and claimed to be the Messiah at 3. There's a few that came and claimed to be the Messiah at 3. At least three claimed. I truly believe individuals should broaden their research and be open to critical thinking and stop believing things that don't make sense. Exactly. And they shouldn't just believe anything that doesn't make sense. You have to find these things out for yourself and continue to grow at your own rate and your own pace. And yeah, you're going to have people that come, they're going to claim to be the Messiah. There's a guy who comes on here, he claims to be all kinds of stuff. And he can claim it, all day. Doesn't mean he is, but if he is to himself, then that's fine. But when you claim it for other people, like I'm nobody's Messiah other than my own Messiah to myself. I can't save nobody but me. He said, I enjoyed myself that day and it was one of the best days of the year for me. Learned a lot and I'll never forget it. I shall return. See, my ego wants to say, goddamn right, that was the best day of your year. That's the best day of your life. But thank you, sir. I'm glad I could be helpful. That part, exactly. Jesus said to them, if you fast, you will bring sin upon yourselves. This is 14. If you pray, you will be condemned. If you give to charity, you will harm your spirit. When you go into any region and walk about in the countryside, when people take you in, eat what they serve you and heal the sick among them. After all, what goes in the mouth won't defile you. What comes out your mouth will. All right. However, I do believe in reincarnation and that we've been here before. I am in agreement with you. And I think most people choose to come back here. Whether they realize it or not, they're choosing to come back. This one kind of correlates to one that we read earlier when he was asking, how should we pray? How should we eat? How should all that kind of stuff, right? So he was talking about, and when we read that one, I said, there's another one that's going to be very similar that's going to reemphasize this. This is one of the ones that reemphasize this as well, about people trying to follow a religion. And he's saying, when you are fasting, you sin upon yourself. Because if you don't like fasting, if you hate fasting, then why are you fasting? You're only bringing sin upon yourself, because the only blasphemy you can have, the only sin you can have is the sin against yourself, right? And the same thing, if you pray, you will be condemned. You know, you begging, you praying, you condemning yourself. One, the style that you're doing it, when you pray and you're begging and pleading and all this bullshit, all you're doing is saying, I want more of the bullshit that I'm dealing with. Please, God, please, God. Please let me get rich. Please let me get rich. Let me win the lottery. Let me just get rich. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to win. I desire to win the lottery. I play it, but I'm not looking for the lottery to make me rich. I'm looking. I build business. Build business, right? And it's not about getting rich. It's about the experiences and the places that I want to go and learn and do and things like that. I need to be in Machu Picchu. I need to be in all these ancient places. I need to go see the ones I haven't seen before and go back to the ones I've already been to, so I can continue to grow and enlighten myself, right? But when you're praying and you're begging, all you're really doing is praying for more of the same bullshit you've been getting. And that's what you're going to continue to get. Right? When you fast for these things, I'm going to fast and then the Lord's going to deliver to me. You just going to get the same shit. And all you're doing is creating pain for yourself, right? This is something that the Buddha realized when he was sitting under the Bodhi tree. It wasn't the denial of self that gave him enlightenment, is when he accepted what the little girl brought to him, because she saw that he was emaciated. Like the true Buddha, it was not the fat Buddha that most people like to see. That's a later Buddha, right? But the first Buddha was skinny as hell because he was an ascetic, and they denied themselves. They thought that through denial of things, only taking in enough to sustain life, that was the process to true enlightenment. But it wasn't until he was meditating under the Bodhi tree and the little girl saw that he was looking like a starving child, offered him some food, and he took in that food and ate that food, and that's when he became enlightened, right? Because he realized at that moment that it is the acceptance of things, that and acceptance of life, and and accepting the wonders and beauty of life and the kindness of life and all that sort of thing, that was the enlightenment. So when you're sitting up here denying yourself and all this stuff, no. If you broke as fuck and then you give it to charity, no, the first charity is you. You're your first charity, right? When they say, oh, you sow an uncommon seed, dig deeper, give more money than what you can afford, and God's gonna shake it up and pour it over and all that sort of thing. No, hell no. No. You're just harming yourself. And this one says you're harming your spirit. Exactly, because you're gonna be walking around all day thinking like, oh shit, I just gave way to my light bill, and I'm already a month behind. Now you know your spirit, your energy inside is gonna be nervous and frightful, and you sitting up there wondering like, how in the hell am I gonna pay this bill? And then when your lights get turned off, you're like, oh hell, now I gotta go ask and borrow and beg for money. Now I gotta go back to the same church, and hopefully they might give me some money. Well, I sold an uncommon seed, and then my lights got turned off. If you ain't got a history of giving to that church, they're gonna tell you, well, we can't help you. So when you go into any region and walk about the countryside, when the people take you in, eat what they serve you, and heal the sick among you. So if you desire to be that type of person, don't go in there with your restraints. You got to meet the people where they are. I know I'm not saying literally eat what they serve you, because I'm sorry if I came to your house and you try to serve me some oxtail or some damn hoghead cheese or some chitlins, I'm not eating it, right? But I'm gonna meet you where you are for who you are, for how you live, for your mindset, for your lifestyle. And the healing the sick is the sickness of the mind. I'm going to, if I came there for that expressive reason, then I'm going to give that to you. Right? And then he says, what goes in the mouth won't defile you, but it's what comes out. The words that you speak, that's what defiles you. The lies you tell from those pastors who are lying, from those priests and imams who are lying, from those people who are taking advantage of other people, that's what's going to defile you. It ain't what you eat. All these diets. Well, I don't eat pork because pork. The Lord said don't eat pork. No, I don't eat pork because it's nasty as hell. The animal is nasty. I don't eat. I don't eat people eating snails and shit because they nasty. That's why I don't eat snails. I don't eat shrimp. I don't eat them bottom feeders because they nasty. What you eat? No, it's about my health. That's why I don't eat shrimp or crabs and all that. But if you choose to eat it, okay. It doesn't defile you as far as your spirit. It might defile your body, but it doesn't defile your spirit. But what comes out your mouth, that's another thing. What y'all typing on other people's pages and this page, not y'all, but you know what I'm saying, that defiles you. All right, before I go to the next one, let me see what, okay, all right, Patricia. Genesis 1, in the beginning, or first God created heaven and the earth, etc. Most of us don't get this. Who is in and amen? You quit but did not get Genesis 1. The Roger International Thesaurus 6th edition define in as in welcome, first ever soul, virgin maiden, with the whole sin created, engendered, baptism, inner and internal man. Amen, welcome, come forth, true to nature, true to life, true to spirit, original, content, real is reality. Still can't read. I'm not exactly sure I understand what you're saying. I mean, because in the beginning of this creation of this universe is what, as I've always read, or this round, this term of civilization. Amen is from Amen Ra. Is the end of a prayer that give credit to Ra at the end of a saying, which is something that the Levant people picked up from the Kemetic people. So you're giving your praises to Ra with Amen. I don't know if I answered your question to the effectiveness that you're looking for, because that sounds like you and I need to talk, because I'm not quite getting it by reading it. What is your thoughts on the out of Africa theory that we all came out of Africa? All of Homo sapiens came out of Africa, and most other Homo hominids came out of Africa. I heard that people in the Aboriginal Americas movement say that the Franz Boas was a Jewish German anthropologist who started the theory. I don't remember who started the theory, but at archaeology, Every hominid came out of Africa, and definitely Homo sapien came out of Africa, and Neanderthal, and Cro-Magnon, and all the other ones came out of Africa. I was going through a spiritual warfare and fasting and prayed, crying out, and nothing happened. I do believe in a creator God. However, for us to beg, pleading, praying, fasting is just a waste. It is a complete waste of time, because you're not going to, you won't get anywhere with that. All you're doing is beg, you're asking the universe to give you more of what you've been getting. You have to demand and command. And then you have to go out and do. Without actions, none of your prayers, meditations, speaking things, none of those things matter. There's so many deities and individuals don't know who to pray to. Honestly, I think the fallen angel has usurped the memories, usurped our memories, and I know that the totality of the subject, I don't know the total, and I know this is a totally off subject, but things don't add up. Yeah, the demiurge, the Gnostics talked about the demiurge, which was a being that kind of like took away the memory of who you were before you came to this existence and trapped you in this human body. And the goal is to work your way through it, but it's constantly trying to keep you here. I don't necessarily agree with the demiurge theory. No, I think you just exist, and you're existing now in this matter plane of existence, and it's time. And your journey is to leave it. There are those who do want to keep you here, but those are many spirits, and a lot of those spirits are sitting right next to you. That's trying to keep you here. They're sitting up in pulpits. I don't think there's this one overarching spirit that is trying to fight this battle, because that's given into the whole God devil mindset. When they're all just created because it creates. The good and the bad is all within the all. It is not separate from the all. There's no good God and bad devil. There's just one. N is the first word. Amen is the last word. God said, "This is where you can find me." I looked up N and Amen, and there are these are some of the definitions. I don't know why this is just not calculating in my brain. I mean, I get that N was the first word, but I don't see the significance in it of N being in the first word. It's just letting you know at what time frame in the beginning of this creation. And Amen is giving credit to Ra. I really don't see, for me, there's no significance to it other than what I said, other than that part. Oh, it's just the first creation. This is just a creation of this time frame around, this go round. Because the earth it talks about the earth being in chaos and already here. So this is just a recreation, a retelling, a redo it. But it's all picked up from the Sumerians. The Sumerians and the Kemetic people. All right, so where are we? Amen Ra is the hidden sun within you, as within, so without. Amen Ra was. I get what you're saying. Amen Ra. There in the Sumerian Kemetic story, Amen Ra was you giving praise to Marduk. According to their stories, Marduk became Ra when he took over Egypt. He renamed himself Ra, although the idea of Ra had already existed. And then he started making people say Amen Ra, as to give thanks to him for all that they have and are, because he wanted to control. That's according to the Kemetic and Sumerian story. Prior to that teaching, Ra was the physical manifestation of the Ogdo, the all. But giving the Amen part, giving thanks to the Ogdo, was never a requirement. It was never something that you needed to do or had to do. This is something that later, as people wanted to control people through religion, that was added to it. So there is never a need to give praise or thanks to any deity. Uh, I give thanks to the air for it being here so I can breathe. But it's not praise, it's gratitude for the sharing. I give gratitude to Angelina for being with me. It's gratitude, not praise, not worship. Because I have this cigar lounge, I don't thank God or thank all, or I'm grateful I'm grateful to the landlord for working out the deal to get it. I'm grateful to all my suppliers. I'm grateful for all my customers. I'm grateful for all the access to people through social media. I'm just grateful for what is here, but without giving praise or worship to it. And that's for everything. Do you think Enlil, aka Yahweh Jehovah, is the deity that we're praying to? I think that's the deity that, yeah, Christian, the Abrahamic religions, yeah, they're praying to Enlil. And that's who I believe that they're praying to. That's who I know they're praying to. I ain't believe, I know they're praying to him, because the the Hebrew people based their story off of, was the Babylonian and Sumerian story. So they're praying to Enlil most of the time. There are occasions where within the stories they are praying to Marduk, or yeah, Marduk, or Baal. Shit. A confounded language. God said, I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Is in the in and amen, meaning God did not lie. She is the first, and her seed, fruit and sons are the last. Well, this God is not the Alpha nor Omega. If you're talking about a God that is based on the Bible, that is not the Alpha nor the Omega. Um, and this God lies. That God in the Bible does a whole lot of lying. Neither is it a she or a he, but both masculine and feminine, all in one at the same time. Now, this God in the Bible has been said is a he, but it's not a he. And modern day people are, and nothing against you particularly, modern day women and some men are trying to say God is a woman, and that is bullshit as well, because feminine energy on its own can't produce nothing, just like masculine energy on its own can't produce nothing. If without the balance of the masculine and the feminine, nothing is produced. That is the law of generation, the law of gender. You have to have both masculine and feminine in order to create. And if you believe that this deity created the universe, then this deity has to be both masculine and feminine at the same time. How did the serpent know that about the tree of knowledge? Did God tell him? Was he eavesdropping, or would that would mean God is not omnipresent if he wasn't aware? If that was the case, then yeah, God, this deity is not omnipresent, because it wasn't aware. Hell, so Adam, where are you? But the serpent in this story is actually Enki, and Enki would know the same things that Enlil knows. This borrowing from the Sumerian story. So Enki knows that the tree of knowledge of good and evil is something that all Anunnaki would know. And since they have made this slave race of man, we don't need them to know this stuff. We don't need them to be able to do this. But the knowledge of good and evil wasn't a tree of good and evil, according to the Sumerian story. It was Adam and Eve's ability to, or Adamu and Titi's ability to reproduce, to which they were not supposed to reproduce according to the agreement between Enlil, Enki, Anu, and Ninharsag. But since they were able to reproduce, because Enlil and Anu felt like if they were able to reproduce, then they would come into self-knowledge, because they can create themselves, and then they would revolt against the Anunnaki, and then they would lose their power base because they didn't want a revolution. So then the tree of life was the science of how to maintain this body, so that they can live for longer, for 200, 300,000 years. And they can't have man living 200, 300,000 years or know the science that they know, because then man would definitely be able to overwhelm the Anunnaki, and then they wouldn't be their slaves no more. So that whole Garden of Eden story, its basis is based on keeping man as a slave race, a cloned slave race, not a regenerative, knowledge-based race that can free themselves. We give honor to the sun, the air, the water. They are all gods that didn't exist. They just used them to express their stories. Yeah. All the nature has always been nature has been deified by all these ancient cultures from 12,000 years on. Well, 9,000 years up to today. One of the Gnostic scripts says that Jesus was the serpent sent by the true source. Was that the secret writings of Adam, or the Gospel of Adam and Eve? I think. I'm not sure, but I have read that before. The two books I posted are great for your library. The old and were for the mental. They old and were not meant for us. The old creation or the New Testament Genesis, where God saw that it was good. What were the two books? I mean, I can scroll through and find it later, but if you don't mind typing it again. I'm not sure if there was a species called the Neanderthal. I think the Neanderthal is really basically the myth that archaeologists put out. But in reality, it is the true story of the real life caveman. I mean, Neanderthal is just a name that they call a different different subset species that is closer to what we are today. And they believe the Neanderthal were either died out through conquest by Homo sapiens, or when Homo sapiens went into Europe and some parts of Asia and encountered them, they bred them out. That's why some people still carry Neanderthal genes. But the gene data doesn't lie. The Neanderthal has a slightly different genome than Homo sapiens, but they are compatible to reproduce. There you go. Thank you for telling me. Can you hear me now? There you go. But yeah, so Neanderthals were more than likely bred. They were both conquered and bred out from Homo sapiens that did come out of Africa into Asia and Europe, modern day Europe. And so I truly appreciate you sharing your knowledge and experience. You are very patient. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, I used to have those two thesauruses. My sister lost my entire library when I let her hold. She was holding my stuff for me because I was living in a space that was too small for all my books. I used to have those. Mm-hmm. You saying what book is it? The one that we're reading? This is the Gospel of Thomas that we're reading. Let's see, what time is it? 1:08. Let's do this one. Well, we on 15. Jesus said, "When you see the one who is not born of woman, fall on your face and worship. That one is your father." You knew that wasn't going to make it into the canonization of the Bible, because that just takes that whole Trinity, which is what the Council of Nicaea was about, and threw that shit out the window. You can get them at a online bookstore for $15. Okay. When you see the one not born of woman, fall on your face and worship. That one is your father. Now, still going with the whole father-mother thing, as I just said, that the creator cannot be a man nor a woman individually. It has to be both masculine and feminine. But it's interesting here when it says that the one that's not born of woman, which would make Jesus not part of a Trinity. Jesus cannot be God because Jesus, according to the story, was born of a woman. So therefore he cannot be one. Now you can reconcile this and say that he's a different part, but if they're still all one, then Mary birthed God, Mary, mother of God. Isn't that what some Catholics call her? Mary, mother of God, right? Because Jesus is God, according to their story. But Jesus, according to the Gospel of Thomas, is saying, no, I'm not. I am not. Only the one that is not born of woman is God. The all cannot be born from its creation, because then that would make it less than the all. It would have to separate itself, and the all can never separate itself, because the moment any piece of the all is not part of the all, then it is not the all anymore. So it has to always maintain self. So it can't be born of woman. So the writers of this is saying Jesus is not God. This is why, what is his name? Arius was one of the few bishops who went to the Council of Nicaea who said, hell no, bullshit to this Trinity. Jesus is not homoousios with the Father, as they would say. He is not. He's a separate being, but he's not the Trinity. And then they beat the shit out of him and forced him to sign the Nicene Creed. And then the dude that beat him the worst, he supposedly was visited by Jesus in the cell and repented, and they made him a saint. When in truth, that dude was just he had a lot of political weight. The real life caveman was Petrus Gonçalves, who lived from 1537 to 1618. He was referred to as the man of the woods, and he had a condition that was called, okay, I've never heard of that dude before. That's interesting. I'll look that up. We all come through the womb, and possibly the real Jesus was a woman who was also known as Isis, Cybele, Asherah, Eve, a lot. We can't get too caught up into how we look at male, female. Now, if there was a real Yahshua, Josephus talked about 4 different Yahshuas back in the day who was rebellious against the Roman Empire, and who was going around teaching a different religion. But there were 4 distinctly different Yeshuas or Yahshuas. And those were each of their stories. When you read his work, his writings, each of those stories became part of the Bible. So like some guy this morning asked me, like, what is my source for saying that Josephus and others wrote the Bible? Reading Josephus and understanding the mindset of Vespasian and what he did to the Druids and what his mission was in Judea demonstrates the more likelihood that Josephus' writings were the beginnings of what becomes your gospel, was the root writings. And so through Josephus and Philo of Alexander taking their writings, they created this, the beginnings of what would become the Gospels. I'm not saying they wrote the Gospels themselves. They possibly could have, but those beginning roots come from Josephus and Philo. So if that person, because I wasn't going to go in there and type all that stuff in there, I'm not doing all that. And that's the whole thing. People, what's your source? What's your source? What's your source? Read, damn it. Read and study. And then think about it. Read, study, think. Genesis 1:28 is in, wait, okay. I'm struggling. My eyes don't want to work right. Genesis 1:28 is the in her at ants. Are you trying to write inheritance? It is the inheritance. And God blessed, watched them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and any children, multiply and increase in nature, and replenish the earth. Yeah. I always found it interesting that it says replenish. Like it said replenish originally, but now Bibles they got replenish and use the word fill the earth, as if it's a first time. There's a difference between replenishing and filling. I've been drinking some coffee. There's still some coffee in here. You can come and replenish my cup, but if it's all empty, then you're filling my cup. But I don't think that's not the creation of the universe, creation of man, creation of no. That's them taking along somebody else's story. So I don't even bother with going through that story of Genesis beyond the fact that it's copying other people's story or to show the inaccuracies or the contradictions of it. Because in that story, the animals were created before man, but then in Genesis chapter 2, man is created before the animals. So therein lies a contradiction. That is the only value that has to me, other than showing where it came from previous people. So it has no value other than that for me. If it has value for you in other ways, that's great. That's good. However that works for you. But for me, it has no other value than showing how the Bible is a copy from somebody else that is written for people to make them feel better about themselves, for propaganda, and then its inaccuracies in order for us to be able to fully and confidently walk away from this book. I don't even look too much to try to break that book down. And I don't know what you're trying to get at with the whole female thing, because creation can't happen without both male and female. And neither one is greater than the other. I don't give two rat's asses that a woman carries the baby for 9 months. That does not make the baby more hers than the man's. Both of y'all are equally responsible for that baby. So in creation, for a deity to be responsible for this creation, it is both the masculine and the feminine are equally responsible, because without one or the other, nothing happens. Man can't produce a baby by himself. A woman can't produce a baby by herself. Just not gonna happen. When you show me that, I'll lean to the other side. But until that is shown, nah, it's an impossibility. So we are going to, I'm gonna stop right there as far as reading, since it's 1:18 and we'll be ending soon. Now, next time we'll get through a lot more of these sayings, because there's 114 of them. So next time we'll get through a lot more of them. It's 1:18. I want to leave a little bit more time for just free conversation. 1:30, I'm getting off of here. All right. Don't be 1:29. Don't try to ask me some more questions at 1:29. We're not going to discuss nothing else past 1:29. But I am curious, and I don't mean any slights or anything of that nature, but why are people so caught up with trying to identify the creator as a male or female? Like, I get why men back in the day did it, because they were trying to assert a patriarchal society and devalue women and keep women under their heel. So I get why it was made into a male. So why are some women, not all women, why are some women, and I'm asking legitimately, just asking, so very caught up in trying to make the creator all female? Like, what's the value of that? What's the benefit of that? I mean, is it self-benefit? Is it because men have tried to dominate women, you want revenge, or you want to now dominate men? Like, what is it? Because it doesn't offer balance. It doesn't offer peace. It doesn't offer growth in personal relationships. You know, she came with all her seeds. Women don't have seeds. And women, yes, women are born with all her eggs, but without the male seed, the egg is never going to fertilize. And therefore, the egg will never manifest into a baby. So just because she came with all of it, what does that matter? Men constantly regenerate. And we never, if you think about it in those terms, men can generate sperm seed for his whole life. Women run out. They have a limited supply. Would you rather a fountain that continues to feed, or a river, or a river that dries up, or a lake, a pond? It's more like a pond. A pond is not fed by any kind of tributaries or rivers, and eventually the pond can dry up. So the comparisons don't equate, but they shouldn't be compared at all to me. It just is what it is. One can't create without the other. Okay, seed, fruit, sun. I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know what parthenogenesis means. I used to know what parthenogenesis meant, but I don't know what it means now. Definitely a balance, yeah. The male child is a copy of his mother. No, the hell he's not. A male child is a combination of both the mother and the father. Can my son is me and his mother. He is not. I mean, look it up. Look up what, that the male child is a copy of his mother. Then that would mean that she can have him without me. That she can manifest, that Lincoln could be manifested through his mother without any information from me. And Lincoln's DNA does not demonstrate that. His DNA demonstrates that he is part from me and part from his mother. If that was the case, there'd be women walking around here and they'd be trying to do them DNA tests, get that child support, and and there would be no fathers. A woman cannot have a baby without the male. It was after we fell into the body and divided into sexes. We've all. I mean, I think I understand what you're saying. Like, once you come into consciousness, you become either male or female. Your consciousness goes into a male or female body. Prior to that, you still carrying both masculine and feminine energy. Even women, when you talk about energy and consciousness, we are all both male and female energy. Now, when we're talking about biology, that's XX chromosome, XY chromosome. Where does the Y come from? If not for a male, it is the male sperm that determines whether or not a child is going to be a male or a female. When we're talking about the matter form of existence, without the male seed, a woman cannot produce a son. I agree, we need both masculine and feminine energy to create, but I heard of animals that can reproduce on their own asexually through the process called parthenogenesis, or AA, virgin birth. That is still not okay. It's not virgin birth. I understand what you're saying, Marcus. Like, there are worms that have both male and female sexual organs, and inside of that worm, it has sex with itself to reproduce, and then it reproduces other worms. That's still not a virgin birth. That is self-sex. So there's still the act of sex happening between the male and female portions of that worm to create another. But that's an asexual being that still has both sexes of male and female. So you still got to have male and female. That's these new hybrid babies. She said, let us make man in our own image. She didn't say that, but making the word used for man back then, it goes for both male and female. It wasn't one or the other. It wasn't that they were just making men, a whole bunch of dudes. It meant man. Like when we say mankind, are you only saying men, or are you saying men and women? Because mankind is men and women. It's all. We're manipulating words to fit a narrative. But mankind, or let us create man, is the in those times when they what that word meant when they wrote it was all of them. Like adapa. Adam. Adam means mankind, not a dude. I think in the beginning it was pure feminine energy, and the male essence came thousands of years later. Why? Then there would be no creation of anything. Atoms have masculine and feminine property. Molecules have masculine and feminine properties. At base element, there's masculine and feminine. There would be nothing. There would be absolutely nothing in creation if it was just one side. Whether it was all masculine or all feminine, there would be emptiness. And nature does not abhors a vacuum. There is never a time frame that we can find that there is emptiness. There's always something. They hid the mother from us this way. The Jews go by the mother's bloodline. I understand. That's why I was asking, is it a thing of revenge towards patriarchy, or just fighting against patriarchy? Or and that's what I think that it must be. Like, we've been so male dominated for eons that now it is we must go completely opposite and fight against it and try to make the female dominant over the male, instead of coming to just balance of what is, looking at the information of what it is, and then just being there and accepting balance. And that's it. It's just balance. One doesn't have, we have this thing where one has to dominate over the other. Even when we talk about Black people and Caucasians, you know, you got these Black people who can't just come into balance, but have to oppress and dominate Caucasians. Why do we have to dominate anything? And I know in today's world, people will call me a simp of a man, because I believe in balance and equality and not trying to oppress or dominate somebody. I call that being an alpha. Whereas a Charlie mindset is, I need to dominate something in order for me to feel better or good about myself. You know, in order for me to uplift myself, I got to step on somebody else. No, I don't need to step on anybody else for me to acknowledge the greatness that I am. Because within the greatness that I am is the balance between me and everybody else. Okay, the Egyptian balance honored the female first and then the male. Okay, that doesn't make them right. Doesn't make them right at all. I read women used to be able to face their vaginas towards the sun and use the energy from the sun, the father, and produce their son. You read some mythological, magical bullshit. So if a woman hold her pum pum up to the sun long enough, she's gonna get pregnant. That sounds like, oh, I want to have, that's Zeus coming down and having sex with a woman and making Hercules and making Achilles. That's Jesus. That's this spirit coming down and having sex with Mary and making a baby. That's that spiritual rape shit. Atoms are different. Everything, you're composed of atoms. Your entire body is composed of atoms, protons, neutrons, electrons. And even between the spaces of that is additional dark matter energy. All of those things have two different forces going on, whether you call them masculine, feminine, or positive or negative. And negative, not meaning in a bad way, but just opposing energies. But those opposing energies are attracted to each other and forms into matter. You are all, everyone is based on protons. Everybody is protons and electrons and neutrons. Everybody is an atom. You're just a whole bunch of atoms put together. Quick question. Why does the Vatican Church or organizations only worship a Black Madonna and their son, but we worship Jesus Christ, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit? Because they because they picked up from the Kemetic people and the Sumerian people of the Black Madonna. So in the Kemetic you had a set with Heru, and that was like a shrine to them, and they would worship that. And you had I think it's Ishtar and her son, or Inanna, same person, and their son, and they worship that. You had Krishna and his mama, and they worship that. So this idea of the mother child has been a popular theme for eons. But there is always still this father figure that they always had. Brahma was the father figure, or I almost remember the Krishna's mama's name, but Osiris or Sar was the father figure. So there was still always the father figure. It's just that imagery of the mother son was something, because the son was supposed to have been born from this immaculate conception or miracle conception. And so that mother son thing became a popular motif. Yep, some supernatural. Hold your ping ping to the sun and you have a baby. Not stepping on men, she made the rulers and she rested. That's still trying to create a female dominance instead of being in balance. I mean, you're okay. However you want to do it, it's fine. Whatever works for you. That makes you feel better to have the female as the only female energy, as the only creator, even though our universal laws did not function that way, even slightly. If that was worked for you, that's what worked for you. Both the masculine principle, I just was wondering why people have that mindset. Both the masculine principle and the feminine principles are essentially men and women should try to come together and not separate. Yeah. Yep. That the female body can make a man child makes her unique. There's a whole bunch of things that make both sides unique. That the male can make sperm until he dies makes him unique. That he provides the genetic material that determines whether a child is male or female, makes the male unique. We can come up with all kinds of things that makes us unique. That the woman can feed a baby through her breast makes her unique. We are all unique. We all have our roles to play, but it doesn't make one better than the other. It doesn't make one more dominant than the other. When we went through the law of generation, when we was going through the Kabbalion, going through the law of gender, one of the things that I tried to express is the fact that it is the balance of the masculine and feminine that creates and manifests anything. That the feminine properties are demonstrated through the carrying of a baby, as far as the nurturing and development of the instructions that was given through the masculine energy. Both are needed in order to manifest anything. Without that manifestation, it doesn't happen. Without that nurturing, it doesn't happen. Without the instruction, it doesn't happen. It is not putting one over the other. That is taking our cultural mindset and trying to apply it to things that doesn't follow our culture. Like the hermetic laws, the natural laws of the universe doesn't care about what culture it is functioning in. but yet it is always functioning exactly the same. You need both masculine and feminine. You need both instruction and nurturing in order to manifest or create anything. And when your mindset, the energy you put out is only one-sided, you're only going to get one thing. And that one thing will always be incomplete. An incomplete egg from the woman comes out in the menstrual cycle. Unused sperm from a man gets reabsorbed into his body. Without the other component, both are waste material. Both go away. Oh my God. Okay, instead of just saying look something up, just say what it is. I hate to sound irritated by that, but I do find that quite irritating when people say, oh, just go look up this. We're talking about it right now. If we're having a discussion about something, just say what it is. Instead of go look it up, go look it up. Not being rude, but I do find that irritating because you can just say what it is. But let's go look up parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis is a reproductive strategy that involves development of a female, rarely a male, sex cell without fertilization. It occurs commonly among lower plants and invertebrate animals, particularly aphids, ants, wasps, and bees, and rarely among higher vertebrates. So this don't happen in humans. And so it's rarely occurring in humans, and understanding this may help us to develop an explanation of such occurrences. Moreover, it may help to reveal the cause of idiopathic ovarian teratoma, a form of asexual reproduction in which growth and development of the embryos occur within the gametria without combining with another gametria. In animals, parthenogenesis means developing an embryo from an unfertilized egg cell in plant. So basically, you're grasping on to something that is a complete rarity that does not happen in higher complex beings. So the all is the most. So if the higher the complexity of the being, the less of the ability for this occurrence to happen. The all is supposed to be at such an unfathomable height of complexity. So if it's rare with us at our level, then it virtually becomes impossible at the complexity of the all. And you're grasping onto something that happens more in things like worms and aphids and plants and invertebrates, and trying to making the giant leap to the super complex beyond our comprehension of the all and make that parthenogenesis. That's a stretch to make your agenda work, in my opinion. That's a stretch to make your narrative work. And it's an unnecessary narrative, because all that narrative does is invite confrontation. And if any group does not need confrontation between men and women, it is Black people. Any group that is being oppressed by another group needs to have the least amount of confrontation and the most amount of unity than anybody else. So you're talking about something that is super, 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 super rare in people. Super rare. And it doesn't make a woman better than a man. Any more so than it makes a man, than men are better than women in any form or fashion when it comes to the being of a man or a woman. We all have our roles, we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. Well, of course, we need both masculine and female. Just look at the story of Sophia and y'all the both. Yep. Sophia and y'all the both. That leads to the demiurge. Science and the universe, math is the source to everything in the universe. First off, there was no Adam and Eve. No, there wasn't an Adam and Eve. That's the first thing. If you're basing it on this Bible, then it's the root of it is already messed up. When a female can have a baby without a male, but we see that is the most unlikely situation. That is that is so unlikely, unless you're a worm or aphid. It doesn't happen. Like when you look up how rare is it, it's talking about mayflies and stuff like that. Let me see something. Y'all give me a second. Okay. Okay, I think this is the part that I'm looking for. All right, most mammalian embryos created by artificial parthenogenesis that have died during gestation periods. The experiment conducted on mammals, mice, suggests that paternal contribution to the paternal contribution is crucial to the egg and to the development of the embryo. This is because the mammalian embryo requires the correct combination of genetic material from the mother and the father to survive. Both sperm and egg cells have a unique set of genetic imprints, which means that certain genes may remain dormant in the sperm, but work in eggs and vice versa. 30 genetic imprints work only if they come from the sperm. Similarly, there are 30 genetic imprints that are active if they come from the mother. Hence, the genetic imprint of the father prevents parthenogenesis in mammals. Even if parthenogenesis was possible in humans, conceiving a son is highly unlikely as compared to a daughter. The reason behind this is the absence of the Y chromosome in females. The mother cannot transmute a Y chromosome essential to form a male offspring. Thus, if the human were to reproduce by parthenogenesis, the results could only be a daughter. In conclusion, in case there was a species experiencing a rapid decline in population or been isolated from fertile males, parthenogenesis is the last hope for a species survival, whereas in cases like that of a condor, parthenogenesis might simply be a part of the natural progression. The scientists are still not sure how the phenomenon of a virgin birth originated or the human species are capable of displaying such natural miracles. There is clearly still a lot to discover about parthenogenesis, but there are plenty of great minds on the case. So basically, a woman creating a male son by herself, like I said earlier, without the Y chromosome information from the male, you're not going to, it's not producing a male. A woman can only produce a woman. That's it. She cannot produce a dude. She does not have the Y chromosome. All babies are female in the womb first. That is a huge misconception, sir. Huge misconception. That is a lie. All right. When my father's sperm entered my mother's egg, that sperm was XY. when it went inside, there was nothing else I could ever be other than a man. Just because the portion of development that forms the gender doesn't happen till later, doesn't mean that I was all female in my mother's womb at any point in time. The moment that sperm crossed the threshold, that embryo, that zygote, whatever, was going to be a dude. It was going to be me. It was going to be a male. There wasn't a time frame where a switch had to hit and then some Y chromosome came into the egg. It was already, the Y was already in there. So I was never, ever all female. So that's a misconception, because they try to say that until it happens, until the process occurs, that's when you become male. You were going to be male from the beginning. You were going to be male from the beginning. That's like saying that when the sperm goes into as soon as it crosses the threshold, it's going to be a human, as if it was ever going to be a goat. My mother was never at risk of having a goat. She was never at risk of having a chimp. Let's use something that's closer to our genome. She was never at risk of having a chimpanzee. My mother was always going to have me from the moment my father's sperm crossed in. So, and it's funny, I was just talking about that a couple of days ago. So all babies are not female in the womb first. That's some spinneroonie bullshit. Right, there's a balance. There's no need for dominance. Amazon women is a made-up story based on the women of the Dahomey. You do realize the Europeans took the idea of the Amazonian woman from the Dahomey women that fought just as fierce as the men did. And then they created a whole mythology around them. The Greeks created a whole mythology based on warrior women from the Kushites. Is a whole mythology. So the French created the more popular, more recent version of it. The Greeks created one based on the Kushite women who were warriors. But these women existed in a both male and female environment. There's not this Amazonian women who are out there by themselves. And plus, even in the Amazonian mythology, in order for them to keep their race going, they would go and capture men, force those men to have sex with them. If the baby came out a male, they would kill the male babies and they would only keep the female babies. So they still captured men and brought them in to keep reproducing themselves. So even in the mythology of Amazons, there is the male component. These women weren't up there scissoring and having babies. They still brought in males. You have to have the male DNA to reproduce. There's no other way to do it. And parthenogenesis does not work. And understood, when they try to artificially do it in mammalian creatures, the baby never born. There's never a baby that's born. There was no baby that's born. I looked up while we was going through that. I got 4 Google pages open. I looked at 4 different reports on it, and I only read the one, but I looked up 4 of them. None of them produced a child, a baby, a replica. And then they can only produce, if ever it was to happen, it would be a girl, another girl, because women only have XX chromosome. You're not going to produce a male. And men can never do it because we don't have uteruses. So a man can never do it either. So neither one of us can do it, which means that we need each other. We need each other to continue. The male sperm dies when it enters. So the genetic material of the male sperm dies. The egg doesn't utilize that the male genetic material to create the baby. That's not death. That's coming into one, coming into unity. And that's what we need to understand. We looking at it as male sperm dies. Male sperm comes into unity with female egg. That is unity. That is oneness in order to manifest. That is not death of one in order for the survival of other or for the creation of other, because one is greater than the other. This is trying to continue to create separation between us. The tail of the sperm dies. Yeah, okay, the tail, because the use of the tail, there's no need for the use of the tail anymore. The purpose of the tail was to swim upstream to get to the egg, and it's a race to get there. And once it penetrates into the egg, the tail is gone. There's no need for the tail. It served its purpose. But but you see, your first statement was that the sperm dies when it enters. The sperm is not dead. The tail just goes away because there's no need for the tail. The tail doesn't have, it's done its job. Its mission is complete. It's like when you launch a rocket, those first boosters, their purpose was to get it off the ground and get it so far. And then, hey, we don't need these boosters no more. So why carry the weight and drop them off? It has no need. So you continue on. I do desire Amazon pertaining to a female like Serena. Boy, you stupid. There's a guy in here. We was talking one day. I know this ain't got nothing to do with what we're talking about. I'm about to get off this thing. We was in here talking, and it was like, if you got Oprah come in and you want to be Oprah and Serena, both of you here, and both of them want you, who you gonna be with? Who you gonna be with? Serena and her maybe 40 million, 50 million, or Oprah and her 1 billion? This one dude was so, I don't give a damn, I'm being with Serena. He was all Serena. It didn't matter who. And we was doing it based on, it was just a little joke thought experiment that dudes do. But yeah, that was funny. I know the money for you, the money don't mean nothing. I get it. I don't know how we got into that whole conversation. I think we started talking about Stedman or something like that. Or could you be a house husband? I think it's how the conversation started. He was asking, could you be a house husband? And some of you do egos like, no, I gotta be. I'm like, shit, if my woman can go out there and make 40 million and my capability is to go out there and make, 100,000, baby, you go do what you do. I will have this dinner ready for you when you get home. You gonna do what you do, because I'm still a man. I'm still gonna be me. We still gonna be, partners in this relationship. But no, you gotta stay home. And I gotta go out here. We're gonna live off this 100,000. Baby, get on out there and make that 100 million. You do you. I will agree with it. Does need balance, but women are the creators. Okay, like we said earlier, I can't cast seed into soil that is on rocks, because show me a woman that can create a baby without a man. You can't. So why go into the whole idea that women create babies? Women are the creators. There's nothing. Just like men invent shit, women invent shit. I'm throwing seeds on rocks when it comes to that point, because I'm stuck on an agenda, and I have to stay with this agenda regardless of what the information comes. It doesn't matter what information comes. I gotta stay right here. I gotta stay right here. So I'm done with that subject. I'm done. Exactly, Iman. We are creators. We all create. Because I know Lincoln, Sydney, and Simone would not exist if I wasn't present. So, yeah. Anyway, I am past due my time. I got to get off of here. Y'all have a great day. Please share and like the video. Send it out to everybody and that sort of thing. That's how you support this channel. That's how we keep doing this. Actually, it's kind of cool. Like I said before, I don't We don't all have to agree all the time, but as long as we all stay respectful and peaceful to one another, we good. We good. We can sit up and have a glass of wine and smoke a cigar and conversation. No, if you don't smoke that, we can just chill together and have a good old time. It doesn't have anything to do with how I think about anybody personally. Unless you're rude as hell, then I'm gonna call you out. Then I'm gonna blast your shit. Do call me by my name, Isaiah. Okay. Dude, okay. You might have to remind me about that one a couple of times because I usually just look at the names that's posted. Isaiah. So, you know, you might have to remind me a few times. So every time I don't call you by that name, let me know. And I'll try to, and over time I'll remember your Isaiah. Okay. No, I've never heard of that archaeologist. No, I wouldn't be surprised if you find some civilizations that are mostly women and they worship goddesses. That wouldn't be uncommon. That wouldn't be ooh, that's crazy kind of thing. That would happen. And if you think about war and attrition and that sort of thing and birth rates, uh, women slightly outnumber men in birth rates anyway. And then when you look at war and rate of dying, women usually live longer than men, and historically, men have went off the battle more so than women have. So you can have societies that there are more women. If you look at the world population, I know if you look at Atlanta, you'd be like, damn, there's so many women compared to men. But if you look at the world population, the number of men and women are damn near equal, or close enough to equal. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a society where there's mostly women and they worship goddesses. Hell, you have societies where there was mostly men and they still worship goddesses, like Inanna, Ishtar. They worship the goddess. There were city states where they worship the woman, the female goddess, more so than a male. Even if ancient people thought that the woman was the creator of her own self, that woman always still had a husband, a cohort. They always had that. Just like the men had a consort. Yahweh used to have Asherah as a wife until Hezekiah got rid of Asherah. Even in the ancient times, they did realize for a long ass time that it did take them both male and female in order to have babies. So, yeah. Some are so destruct in their division, only derived from their hurt within their life. It will change. I hope so. But y'all look. Lilith, Ishtar, Nana, Ashtaroth. Yeah. I forgot about Lilith. Yep. Lilith was created at the same time as Adam, according to the first Hebrew story. And they created man, both male and female, at the same time. Didn't say create one over the other in Genesis chapter 1, verse 24, 26, one around there. But anyway, I'm out. Y'all have a great day. Share the videos. Let's build the channel. I'm almost at 8,000 on YouTube. Let's make it 8,000. Always remember you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration. And I will see y'all tomorrow between 10 and 10:30. Peace. Peace and all that chicken grease.